Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nurse Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And the sound effects you heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @1agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Indeed. And you can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find us on your podcast portal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording every Thursday night on youtube.com/theclicknation or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and make sure you click on notifications so you know when we are on.
Yes, which is actually kind of reminding me of the of Power Pack from the last issue of Power Pack.
Oh, this week? Yeah, I didn't have a chance to read that.
Last one, the last week.
Oh,
because there was a good bit of that going on. I'm sitting like, oh, why are you doing this to me? But we'll get to this week. Interesting. So yeah, we of this Comic Book Chronicles, first of all, want to say that rest in peace to the one them called DMX.
Absolutely. He's got he played a pivotal role in hip hop in the late 90s and early 2000s. He had lots of chart topping stuff, lots of get hype music. Although I'll be honest, this was a time in my hip hop fandom when I wasn't necessarily going and searching out whole albums.
Right.
And I fully admit that I did not realize that Darkman X had literal prayers recorded as tracks on his albums. And I did not know that. And it took me until him passing away to find that out. And I'm sad about that, to be honest, because he had such a he had such a difficult life. Not conflicted, but a difficult life, because he obviously had challenges from his demon, his personal demons, and also was looking to his better angels. So he definitely embodied, the humanity. If there's a, if that's an oversimplification, as Jimmy Woo would say.
Right. Yeah. The only thing the one thing I hate about that is because you're right about that. But the only thing I hate about is like when people were talking about his passing is that's the one thing they glossed on, not his career. Not the number of hits he had for the most part. The fact that he was troubled is like a lot of a few articles just been really kind of glossing onto. I'm like, oh yes, we know this, but like, do you want to celebrate the man or just talk about? It's like how they talk about certain people a certain kind of way, but then we're talking about other people. They talk about them. They talk about all the issues they've had, but not the good stuff they've done, or they've been part of, whatever the case may be. But then they talk about other people so glowing who've had way more trouble, or if at the very least as much a troubled life as these other people that they talk about, and it's kind of real sad.
Right. No, I get that. I definitely do. But I admit that I definitely remembered him after his music, for being, unfortunately being in trouble a lot. And he did have a long string of troubling news,
Right.
even when he was on the famous side.
Right.
But ultimately, he proved to be, like as I said, the personification of the human condition. He literally had his gigantic ups and gigantic downs.
Right. And I guess the flip side of that is I have been seeing on Twitter where people have been like, have been talk about good interactions with him.
Hmm.
Like he just seems like he's and I didn't know. Apparently, he was on Kim's Convenience.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that, but he obviously was delving into the Hollywood world.
Right.
Like for even when he was at his peak as a recording artist,
All right.
and he found that that additional career there in acting. So
Right. I mean,
rest in peace, Darkman X.
indeed.
Uh,
Yeah. Famously did start in Belly.
yeah, I was about to say his last name is Simmons, right? Earl Simmons.
I believe that's true. Yes.
Yeah, so just a little, we pour a little bit out for Darkman X.
Indeed.
Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, DMX and I be the best. You see the rest, they looking like they need a rest.
Yep.
Man, that's there you go. that put a seal on that right there.
Right. I mean, that's one of the Roddykat and I, just before we came on, we're talking about the tracks that we remember DMX best for. Because unfortunately he didn't have the longest rap career, but he definitely had some songs that really hit home and found themselves a lot of radio play, definitely club play, stadium play. There's definitely some of those songs as well. But What's My Name, as someone who has lived his entire life with constantly correcting people on how to pronounce his last name, I felt that when he yelled that out. I felt it in my bones. Felt it. What's my name? So.
Right. Indeed.
I also meant, I was about to say, I also mentioned Who We Be. I always
Yes.
thought that was even though it was one of his later tracks, I always thought that was really one of the stronger tracks that he put out.
Right, and if things weren't things with copyright violations or whatnot, we would have probably had a whole bunch of snippets going on right in this place as we were talking. But
right, I was about to say, if we were a versus, maybe we wouldn't have. If we were literally like playing a DJ set, that might be something we could do. But no, we are the Comic Book Chronicles,
we
and
are
we're here to
indeed.
talk about all the stuff that is comic book culture. And the first thing we are going to talk about is
To which actually it works out because I think he probably has been in a comic book or two.
oh yes,
If I remember not mistaken. But yes, the first thing we're going to talk about this week on the show is Falcon and Winter Soldier recap of episode 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that, well, spoiler warning is already in effect. If you're listening to this on the audio version, you would have heard that before right before the show started. But if you don't want to be spoiled on Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 4, you may want to spin out for about, say 20 minutes.
yeah, that's about right. 15, 20 minutes is about
Yeah.
right. So, spoiler bell warning in 3, 2, 1 for the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 4.
And it goes a little something like this. Let's see. First off, the name of the episode is called "The Whole World Is Watching," and that will become quite apparent as we talk about this. So it opens
Yes, that is a key element here, and it's a tease for what happens really at the end of the episode.
Well, that from what, yeah, and also I guess there's a couple other things that it also kind of calls to also, according to a couple of Easter egg things that I saw. But so first off, we start open off in Wakanda, and back when Bucky was there getting deprogrammed. This was like his trial by fire with the deprogramming to see if it actually works. So it's him and Ayo. Sitting by the fire, and he's being all his mopey self, and she's like, this is the last test, and then she goes through this is the last test, and you know, he's worried about, you know, whether it doesn't work. He's pretty much being a naysayer on this and thinking it's not going to work. And I've been like, well, not with that attitude, but but so she was like, yeah, I'm say your trigger words that we know well from, well, not maybe not well, but that we know that we've seen before in the movies, you know, to see if it actually works. And she was like, don't worry, I'm not gonna let you hurt anybody. To which we didn't find out later on what she meant by that, outside of the fact that, you know, she's one of the Dora Milaje and she will kick ass. As we will also see.
Exactly. What I was going to say is what's implied is that she has the force. She can apply the force necessary to keep him from hurting anybody.
Right. That's what you think at first.
Right. And the Dora as a whole can at least keep him at bay from hurting any of the innocent Wakandans. That's how I read that. And I find it funny that you're talking about how Bucky's his mopey self. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the way he always is. Anytime, anytime the threat of the trigger words, the activation words, or the programming words, is getting ready to be thrown out there. So I kind of chuckled at that. I'm like, yeah, I would be too if I heard some of these words in Russian. Even on my own, I'm already programmed.
Right. But even before that, like even in the first episode, like he was kind of all like, the first episode he was like kind of, you know, being all emo. But nevertheless, let's see. So yeah, so that happens. She goes through all of the words, and you can see the conflict on his face as it goes by, as they keep going by, and he's thinking, and you see flashbacks of pretty much you know, snippets of all of his showings in the MCU, including as the Winter Soldier, as she's going through the words, and once she gets to the end, kind of finds out nothing. He's you know, it worked out. He didn't get triggered.
Right.
So you know, that being the case, we go from there to present day, where they're talking outside of, I forgot where they were. I think they was in Rigo, or no, they weren't in Rigo. Were they in Rigo? Yeah, so they were still in Latvia, and this is pretty much taking care. This is after the events of the last episode, where he goes and finds out, and they meet up together. So they have some words. You know, she basically says that we want Zemo. Why'd you help him escape? That kind of situation. And so, you know, Bucky's like, he was an end to a mean. Do we need him for something? You know, stall us out. So she was like, 8 hours. You got 8 hours, then we're coming for him.
Right. Part of me was like, yo, you know, using Zemo as a means to an end and only giving them 8 hours. I was actually in my head sort of counting the time.
Right.
And I wasn't sure if 8 hours had passed, to be perfectly honest.
Right. Yeah, that was the kind of where I was too, because I'm like, I know there's some things happen, but I'm like, I'm like, wow, I don't know.
And we'll get to that. What Roddykat is describing is the passage of time, which obviously in an episode, which is technically the longest episode of the show so far, but still less than an hour.
Right.
Which we're left trying to figure out how the story is moving along, to see how these 8 hours that Io and the Dora Milaje give, you know, how long, you know, how this 8 hours is spent by Bucky, Sam, and Zemo as they're looking to locate Carly and the Flag Smashers.
Right, and it's not like we get a 24 style countdown clock,
right,
you know, as it's going on. So it is what it is. So yeah, so I guess this is where we cut to Carly, Morgenthau, and I guess the news. Yeah, because I think it cuts to the news, to where they're talking about the bombing from last episode, and you know, and that much. And apparently we get to see Zemo get some monologuing here, including a great line, according to this article that I'm checking out. It says that actually So okay, so here's the part that I don't like, or that I didn't like, because well, no, I like this part, but I didn't like what people after this were on social media was kind of getting at. So basically, Zemo's talking about he's, as this article says, connecting Nazis to Ultron and to the Avengers, and saying that they're all bad, and he's basically calling her and the Flag Smashers supremacists. And I'm sitting here like, who are you to be calling some people? Now, yes, this is I'm thinking more comic Zemo than this version, but this version is still not a good person.
Right. He may not necessarily be connected to the Nazis the way Helmut was,
but he did work with Hydra in this version. Wait,
no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He was,
no. I'm actually thinking of a comic book from this week, but yeah.
No, what I was gonna say is, what's implied is that he was royalty in probably a predominantly white nation of Sokovia.
Sure.
So there's definitely some some level of supremacy there. Maybe not the supremacies that we're used to thinking or talking about, but he's royalty.
So yeah, and on that point, right? So on that point, he's all like, even in Civil War or whatever, he's all like, superpowered people, and just like he's saying here, like superpowered people shouldn't exist. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, well, that's probably because if they weren't around, people like you would probably have more power, and that's what you would have really problem with. But regardless, he's doing all of that kind of talk, and it basically, if you take a step to it, it basically sounds like, well, no superpowered people, which means you could think about if mutants were around, in this universe, in the MCU universe, what we think about that. But you could also take a step that is like, well, if you don't, so you basically don't want anybody that's different than you, which, being that he's working with Sam, that would also be, there could be a logical step taken from that, because some of this stuff still kind of plays into, how into somewhat comic renditions of them. But the one thing I couldn't stand about it was like, people were like, which, you're gonna have these people out there. People were pretty much going off of what Zemo, pretty much saying Zemo was relatable. Zemo's not relatable. Zemo's a manipulative. He's, regardless, he's not being shown as his comic book version, but he's nowhere near relatable, and he's still not a great person.
I was gonna say, I don't know if relatable.
No, that's what people have been saying.
Well, I mean, this is why I'm not necessarily on social media like that.
Right.
I don't think that's the correct way of looking at Zemo. Obviously, what the MCU has done is given, and what they've done in the past and what they continue to do is to give the villains, who are the heroes in their own stories, some of the more complex moral and some of the more complex moral positions and viewpoints in the MCU. Obviously, we think back to Eric Killmonger, and now we have Zemo expressing stuff that definitely has different nuanced views on it. So it's interesting that and I think it's a strength of the MCU that they're utilizing the villains to really put forth these really nuanced viewpoints on what are really complex moral issues.
Sure. I guess I hate the fact that it's sometimes comes off as humanizing them too much. Because I'm like, no, they're still the bad guys. Don't and we've seen that kind of often in cinematic landscapes. Like, okay, yeah, you're making them a little too human,
a little too sympathetic.
Yeah, and it's like, no, you shouldn't do that.
I understand, but in any event, it does make them an effective character. They are a fleshed out character. They are not a one-note villain, which is something that we always criticize some of the MCU movies for, because they just didn't give enough time to the villains to flesh out their stories. But this is a TV show, and we've had the time. And so, as Roddykat mentioned, Zemo gets a chance to really express his views on this. And as we move along, we find out that as a result of the bombings that the Flag Smashers, the bombing that the Flag Smashers pulled off, that Carly didn't tell her other Flag Smashers about, really, was that it led to stricter controls for borders, and that Sam, Bucky, and Zemo are on the hunt for Carly, and they get a clue that the funeral for Donya Madani, that character who they had tracked to Riga, is going to be held that same day. And at this point, is this where the Turkish delight comes in?
Yes. So
Yes.
so they're in this one spot and they're looking for clues, and they split up. Bucky's watching Zemo, but from a distance, but he's kind of looking around. Sam kind of goes upstairs to kind of look around and ask people around, but he doesn't get any, no one helps him out. Matter of fact, people are just kind of ducking and hiding, because apparently it kind of comes to light that they seem like they know who he is, and they're like, so they're not trying to help him, because, people like them don't normally, usually somebody like Sam comes around, there's, some trouble looking around. At least that's what can be implied from it. But people are they don't like outsiders, is basically what they actually say. So
Exactly.
except for the one person who actually does talk to him. So Sam does find somebody that talk to him, and they're like, yeah, I know who you are, but you don't, basically you're an outsider, and people here don't trust outsider, which is why people were kind of ducking and leaving and whatnot, and like, nope, I can't help you, basically. So meanwhile, Zemo is downstairs, and we're in this little courtyard, and there's a bunch of kids playing. So he goes over there. As a matter of fact, yeah, because the Turkish delights, I think, I can't remember if he brought them out earlier when he was talking during his monologue. I think he did.
Right, he found them in wherever it was that they were staying.
Right.
That was Zemo's place near and or close to Riga.
Right.
And so he probably tucked some into his pocket, and he was able to use these candies to entice kids into giving him some intel.
Right. So it just so happened that happened to come in handy for that reason.
Exactly, and it also shows that everyone has their own super spy technique. And I kind of laugh because poor Sam, still not equipped yet for the whole super spy thing. Bucky is equipped for a different type of super spy thing.
Right. Right. He's more in line for wet works at this point.
Exactly. He's not the most subtle tool in the toolbox. If you were in the Red Room, or if you were in the KGB or Hydra, back when Widow was still an agent, if you had something subtle, you sent in Widow. If you had something that required more wet works, then yeah, you send in the Winter Soldier. So, but in any event, as we mentioned, we find out that that Carly, while they're trying to figure out what to do with the rest of the serum, and they've already found out that the power broker is on their tail.
Right.
But before that, they want to go to the funeral for Donya Madani.
Right. So so Zemo's doing that with talking to the kids and getting the information. Kids telling them to keep hush hush. Telling them not to talk to Sam or Bucky, because he's manipulating, basically, or or upping his leverage, I guess, so not necessarily manipulating, but Sam is also talking to Sharon, who he finds out calls in another favor for him, even though he already has one with her. That's where she tells him that the power broker is mad and he wants the serum back, and that whole thing coming back. But then I think we cut to Carly in the cemetery with one of her other Flag Smashers, and they end up getting the serum. And they're talking. As a matter of fact, there was a conversation between them two while they're getting this about I believe the other dude was a fan of Captain America back in the day, because of he had a family member who fought in a war. but there's a whole conversation about, you know, the world being different from what it was, and needs a new Captain America, and says that she could be, you know, she should be the new Captain America, but she's, you know, more in tune with what the world needs now. So that whole conversation kind of happens as they get the formula and go, or get the rest of the serum that they have and go. And then we catch up with that asshole. Yes, one John Walker and Lamar Hoskins, because I'm not calling him Cap. So as Zemo and Bucky and Sam are heading toward the place of the funeral, you know, John Walker happens to show up with Lamar, and they're talking there for a second, and you know, he's being John Walker. Like, I know some people only know this version of John Walker, but he's pretty much comic accurate at this point. Almost.
Right. With some changes, but yes. Definitely. It's definitely something where, if you're familiar with the source material, you already sensed, if you didn't, you know, they kind of telegraphed it, but you already sensed where this was going. And they definitely adapted some of the source material that I personally remember reading in real time back in the day. And I could just see it starting to happen. And I was like, oh, so that's how they're adapting this particular part of the story to get to this point. But we'll get there when we get there. So as Roddykat mentioned, you know, the John Walker and Lamar Hoskins, Battlestar, link up with Zemo, Bucky, and Falcon. And they end up, you know, getting to where the funeral is happening, and they the group of them convinced John Walker to give Sam some time, because what Sam is trying to do is reach out. He makes it plain to John Walker that one of the things that he did after he left active duty was go into counseling, but as a counselor, as someone who worked in dealing with post-traumatic stress and all this other stuff. So he has some experience, some skill with talking things out, and so they're able to convince John Walker to give him 10 minutes.
Oh, excuse me, it's a callback to Winter Soldier. Excuse me.
Oh yes, I was about to say I didn't hear what you said, but yes, that is definitely a callback to how we meet Sam in the Winter Soldier after Cap laps him a couple of times around the reflecting pool. So we get Sam trying to talk Carly out of her terrorist plans, and what ends up happening is Sam actually brings up some points that Zemo makes about wanting to use the super soldier serum to force people to see things her way, and and with that point of view, and with that willingness to go to those lengths to have her way be done, makes her a supremacist. And just as it seems that Sam is starting to get through, John Walker does a John Walker.
Yep, he comes busting. And so the whole thing about Sam kind of mentioning what Zemo said, you know, according to this article, it kind of makes it seem like, well, you know, he's clearly still in Zemo's pocket, and that could, I mean, kind of sort of still in Zemo's pocket in a way, with you know, following along. But also it's like, no, you pretty much were saying like, no, this is what people are saying about you, you know, which I'm pretty sure Zemo would not be the only one thinking that. But yeah, as he's connecting for it, that's when John Walker comes busting in like the fool he is, and you know, gives chase, to which, you know, causes Zemo to escape. Well, not causes Zemo to escape. Zemo, who just got handcuffs, escaped from his handcuffs. We'll see what happens in a minute. But Sam, you know, kind of gives chase, and so does Walker and Bucky also. Which I'm sitting here like, why didn't Bucky just stop him? Like, why did Bucky let him go in? He could have just like, hold on, stiff armed him real quick. Which, granted, probably would have started a fight already that we'll see later on. But
Yeah, I was about to say, Zemo gets away because of the fight going on.
Right.
So essentially, as this confrontation, is already heated, it escalates, and who steps in? Who comes in? Who?
Well, no. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yes, we're almost there. We're not there.
Well, Zemo gets away because they come in.
I know, but no. No, we're not there yet. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about what happens later. Okay. I'm talking about when and the Carly's still scene because he.
Oh, so we're still there. Okay.
Yeah. We're still there. So so we can go ahead and get to that part. Yeah, Zemo gets out of his handcuffs. Basically, and as there people are somehow he ends up finding Carly before everybody else does, and he starts shooting at her, which makes her drop the serum, and she does get hit, but like I said, super soldiers are not invulnerable. She gets hit. He breaks up a whole bunch of the vials that he sees on the floor of the super soldier serum, and then that's when pretty much everybody else kind of catches up to him.
Right.
But apparently one got missed. That gets found by John Walker, so he kind of tucks that away.
Because that's the way. That's where the story needed to go.
Exactly. John does knock Zemo out. I forgot about that part, but yeah. And next to that's when he finds super soldier syndrome, and then there's there's a cuts to a conversation later on, I guess, assuming between John and Lamar about whether we would take serum, which I believe almost echoes the scene from earlier where Zemo asked Sam if he would take it, and Sam's like, nah. But them two are weirdly enough in a mall, and they're talking, and at this point you kind of, or at least this point, I kind of wondered if he had already taken this. John had already taken the serum or something, but he was asking But he was asking at this point because you kind of wonder, like, did he actually already take it? And he's just asking to see if it was, if it was cool or not. And you also get a sense of like, well, is he going to share some with Lamar, which he, we'll find out.
I was annoyed by that.
Right.
I was annoyed by that because that should have been either he recovered 2 vials or he split the dose.
Right.
Because in order to keep, I hate to say comic accurate, but Battlestar's supposed to be enhanced also. He's
Exactly.
not. He is no piece of chopped liver,
Right.
for lack of a more catchy phrase, as I was just digging for one.
Right.
But
so yeah, in the comics, they both were enhanced by.
Yeah, I was about to say he's not the weakest guy on the block. That's
Right.
the point.
They both in the comics were enhanced by the Power Broker at a certain point during the run. I think both. Wait. Almost, I guess I don't know. I can't remember, but regardless, they both have it. Regardless, so that conversation happens, and then it cuts to them and Falcon and Winter Soldier going to the funeral. No, wait, that was the funeral. I'm sorry, that was that. So they're in. I guess they're still in one of Zemo's hideouts. Where
no, they're still, what it is that it's just another part of the complex that they're in with the funeral, and what ends up happening is that you get the big fight scene.
Well,
right?
That's why I think no, because that's what I was thinking. It didn't seem like it was that, because it kind of sort of doesn't make sense how Zemo would. What we'd see what happens with Zemo if that was the case, but it made it sound like they were in Zemo's spot. But yeah, you may be right. I don't know. But regardless, so they're talking, and the John Walker comes in and wherever they are.
Right. No, they're still at you're right. They're still in the building where this funeral is being supposedly secretly held, right? So what ends up happening is, that's when the fight, this is what I was teasing earlier,
Right.
is that they talk about, there's a lot of this stuff is happening in flashback. What Roddykat was mentioning too about this conversation with between Lamar and John Walker.
I'm not sure if it wasn't. I'm not sure if it was in flashback,
or was it? I think it was like a quiet moment,
right? Kind of in between,
like in between battles,
right?
or in
So
between in between scenes, I guess.
right.
So,
So
but
when
in
they
any event, you know
right
what you get is the Dora Milaje
right
finally determining that the 8 hours are up,
right. So they
and
yeah. So all of them are talking. Well, so Sam and Bucky and Zemo are talking. And then John Walker and Lamar comes in, and then while that happens, the Dora Milaje come in and just kind of break up the whole scene. And of course, John Walker does a John Walker then, and it's like, you know, trying to smooth things over, but also trying to be, you know, he's being John Walker. He rolls up.
what he's trying to do is take charge of the situation.
Right.
What he doesn't realize is that he is never in charge of the situation. That he is
Exactly.
not the alpha dog. He's not the alpha male or the alpha. You know, that's why I said alpha dog or alpha person in the room.
Right, because even Sam's like, you might want to fight Bucky before you fight the Dora Milaje. which was a funny line. I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna go back. And sure enough, he was like, well, you know, I'm sure we could talk this out. Puts his hand on Io, and that's what starts the fight. So the big fight happens.
I was like, dude, seriously?
Yeah.
I posted a meme on this, which I found hysterical.
Yeah.
You know, it was it's on my Instagram at age_70. It's not an original meme on my part, but I saw it and I thought it was apt, which is the Captain America counseling video, and it says, "So
yes,
you put your so your dumbass put your hands on a Dora Milaje."
Yes, I also saw that one, and retweeted it. But so yeah, that happens. The fight happens. So what I thought was 2 Dora were 3, because I was thinking there were like 2 Dora just took down 4 dudes.
No, it was 3.
Yeah, I know. But I was like, regardless, you know, they just came in and just mopped everybody, including some people, you know, because, you know, Sam was basically trying to keep from killing John, and you know, Battlestar got involved, but he got mopped, and Bucky, and there was that one little side before they actually got into the fight. Sam's like, we got to stop this, and you cut to John just getting whopped by the Dora, and she was like, looking strong, John.
Time out. Hold that thought. What we left out was that Lamar Hoskins gets captured, and there's a bit in here. You know, there's a bit in here.
When that was after that.
What's that? We're past that now.
No, because he was there at the fight.
No. That's my point. We're past that now. But the point is, there's a time when whatchamacallit? Whatchamacallit? There's a time when is it after this fight?
No, it was after this fight. Yeah, because that's when what happens next.
Gotcha.
Next happens. So yeah, big fight scene happens. John Walker gets like the shield gets rendered unusable for a minute, because, you know, he's, you know, and we leave the fight with John's like sitting on the ground talking about they weren't even super soldiers, which made me laugh to no end.
I give Wyatt Russell a ton of credit for acting that particular bit of dialogue, even with the mask on, very well. Like, you actually felt the stupid bravado and his ego being shattered in that particular delivery. Like, you could see it.
Right. And speaking of egos getting shattered, not necessarily egos, but something else also happens during the course of that fight, in which, in the fact that AO basically disables disables Bucky's arm by pretty much doing a nerve pinch, or sorry, because she knew the way to kind of disable the arm, detach the arm from him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no pun intended.
Right. So so that happens, and you know, and you can kind of see it on Bucky's face, like, what the, you know, because he didn't know that was gonna happen, and that they even talk about that. It was like, wait, did you know that would happen? As he puts his arm back home and resets it, you can see just how dejected he was, you know, when he was like, no, and he was like, because that was also a meme that was also kind of going around. You see him reset his arm, and the way his look, it was like, yeah, I see that look. I know what that look means. Like, dang. And of course that led to a whole discourse on which is so stupid on social media about, about So this was the defining thing from the discourse from social media. I'm not going to go into it for it, but somebody was like, okay, basically it's like, so they don't trust him after, you know, the Wakandans don't trust him after, don't trust Bucky after everything they've done for him. I'm sitting here like, one, it's their tech. They could do what they want with it. You know, so why would they not have a fail safe in it just in case something happened? Like, and people are acting like, oh, he was all wronged, you know, for them doing that. I'm saying like, y'all are so stupid, but you also know the type of people that would do that anyway. Or
Right, I was going to say, yeah, exactly. What I was going to say is the Wakandans. I think one side of that is that the Wakandans still have issues with trust, and for good reason.
Right.
So there's definitely some good reason for them to put in, as you mentioned, fail safes for their technology that falls in, that is being employed outside of its borders. So that makes perfect sense.
Right. So, and actually, I think we might have. Oh, so yeah, and in the course of all that, Zemo escapes through, as Sam says, El Chapo style, and I think this might have been where we get the conversation between Lamar and John about taking the serum and the thing, which led to what happens next. So we can go ahead and kind of keep this rolling real fast. They find Carly somewhere to kind of oh yeah, that's right. This is when Carly calls Sam's sister and like, I want to meet up with Sam, but then she also kind of threatened him. She's like, yeah, I want to make sure you know how serious, which I kind of hated this part because it kind of made her more villainy that she's kind of been in the, you know, and coming up to this. Like they were trying to make her a little bit more villainy than you know what originally kind of let off that. But regardless, so this ends up with Sam and Bucky going to meet Carly, and then of course John and Lamar kind of following behind them, and John doing the same thing he did earlier and just kind of bust in at some point and try to take over the situation, which leads to another fight between Carly and a couple of other Flag Smashers and Sam and Bucky, which leads to, well, right before that, Lamar gets captured and he gets himself out of the situation, which, you know, but also leads to, like I said, a fight between everybody again at the end of that, which leads to Lamar getting killed by Carly.
Right.
Which it was like, ooh, you kind of felt it in a way. She's like, cause she punched the smack out of the dude. Like,
no, she kicked him. It was
that's right.
It was a kick. It was one of those, and I hate to bring it, I hate to put it this way, but it was one of those things where I remember Chris Evans actually mentioning this, where in the transition from Captain America First Avenger to the first Avengers movie, and then to Winter Soldier, where they made more of a point of seeing how destructive Cap could be if he'd let loose just a little bit,
right,
to people. And I recall noticing this specifically when we go through that opening scene in no, it's the opening it's not the opening scene in Winter Soldier, because that's Cap meeting Sam, but Cap, and you know, Cap when he goes on that strike team mission with the Widow and the Shield strike team, where he jumps out of the plane with no chute, and you know, and the goal is to recapture the Lemurian star. And as he gets on board and is running around the ship, literally kicking people off the ship with the force of one kick, that's essentially what we see here, where Carly is, being using full-on super soldier strength, and unfortunately, she kicks Lamar Hoskins right into a pillar, and it's strongly implied that he's dead.
Yeah, which I feel like if the kick or the punch, whatever it was, probably killed him before he even hit that pillar, but the pillar didn't help, because you see him pretty much get slumped and go over, and then John goes there, you know, to check on him, see, you know, make sure to get him to see if he's still alive, and it's like you said, it's implied that he's dead, which causes him to get really angry, and everybody scatters, or not everybody, but the Flag Smashers kind of scatter in while he's doing that, but he's upset. Sam and Bucky, I think, also leave at some point at this point. I think maybe going after flashbacks. I can't remember which one it was, but so we just see John just getting very red, and then he jumps out the window down and onto a van, which pretty much tells you right then and there that he took the serum. If it wasn't clear that he took the serum at any point, it was this. Because it's actually kind of weird and funny because it kind of he had the even right leading up to that fight, that part of the fight happening, he was already feeling
no. He bends the pipe before this. He bends the pipe, and that's the first sign.
True.
And if it's not obvious, if it's not obvious up until that point, that's the first sign where, like during this fight with the Flag Smashers, you see, as they're kind of going around, whatchamacallit, beating up the Flag Smashers, you see John Walker bending a pipe with his bare hands, and Sam Wilson asks him, "What did you do?" And he knows what he did, but nobody says anything, so it's still implied up until we get another exhibition of superhuman strength.
Right. So and also this part kind of bummed me out because like, so we knew it was going to get to this point that somehow, but we kind of sort of figured either Lamar or what was shown to be his wife early on was going to be the ones that gets sacrificed for this part to happen, but ended up being Battlestar. So yeah, so John Walker kind of chases after them, and I guess going back to the point of the conversation that happened, there was a whole conversation that Lamar and John was having, and they were basically, and Lamar kind of equated taking the super soldier to being drunk in a sense, but also goes back to the conversation that Erskine had with Steve, like what you were saying, going back in the first Avenger about the super serum only brings out more of the person you are and nothing, and not necessarily anything extra or any difference. So anyway, cut to this. John Walker's mad, chasing down the Flag Smasher that he catches wind of and beats
the closest one. Yeah, it's the closest one. It's not Carly, it's just the closest one.
Right. Who was the same one that was talking to Carly at the cemetery site earlier. So there's a little something in that. The fact that he was getting beat to death, to actual death, by the new Captain America after saying that he used to be a fan of Captain America from back in the day. So, John hunts him down. They end up at this walker in front of a bunch of people, and John just takes the shield, the edge of the shield, and just keep beating down. I thought he was going to take his head off, but apparently not.
I was about to say, I think it's implied that that's what he did,
or beating his chest in, one of the two.
Exactly. I think it's implied that he took his head off Baron Blood style,
right?
Because it's definitely a callback to that scene from Civil War, where I'm pretty sure there were some people unfamiliar with the character of Steve Rogers who thought that maybe, just maybe, Cap might behead Tony Stark.
Right.
But no, he was just taking out the arc reactor powering his armor.
Right, I did see that reference.
Ever the tactician, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening, so as Roddykat said, what ends up happening is that this entire display of misdirected anger, because it's not like this guy killed Lamar, right,
and even says that as much as John kind of comes up on him.
He's just the closest Flag Smasher. Mm-hmm. What ends up happening is that this entire scene plays out in public, in the middle of the day, in the broad daylight, where people are taking out their cell phones and live streaming or recording or taking pictures. Whatever they're doing, they are all putting this on record. And you get this, unfortunately now, sadly iconic image of John Walker standing up with blood sprayed across the edge of the shield.
Right, and Carly's also in the crowd seeing this because she had covered herself. She had put her hoodie on, and she saw that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The rest of the Flag Smashers have all gone in different directions to try to blend into the crowd. And as Roddykat mentioned, you get an image of Carly trying to blend in with the crowd and seeing what happens. You see Sam and Bucky just too far away from what's happening to stop it. And it's, and this is where the scene this is where the story ends. And I honestly was surprised that they went there, but I knew they were going there.
Right. Like, we knew it was going to get to this point in some kind of way. And like I said, I kind of hated it had to been Battlestar, but sacrificing the black dude for as some folks have said,
Right. Well, unfortunately, they had to sacrifice somebody because if I don't know if you read, as part of maybe this the story, the series coming up, if you read any of some of the stories that were part of John Walker's Captain America story.
I remember it shortly after real time reading it. So yeah, I do know what actually happened in the comics.
Right, exactly. So what ends up happening in the comics is that John Walker's secret identity gets revealed, right? And one of the reasons behind having a secret identity is to protect, people. It's not necessarily to protect yourself, it's to protect other people from being targets. And in this case, that all that stuff comes to pass, all the fears surrounding having a secret identity come to pass, where John Walker's secret identity comes out and his parents get targeted by this group called the Watchdogs. And unfortunately, as a result, John Walker's unable to save his parents from getting killed in the middle of his battle with the Watchdogs as he's trying to rescue them. And he goes absolutely berserk and just goes, and bear in mind that John Walker in the comics is roughly as strong as Spider-Man.
Sure. Yeah.
Like 10 tons, like roughly, if I recall correctly, according to the old OHOTMU's official handbooks of the Marvel Universe, he's roughly as strong as Spider-Man, right? Roughly in the 10-ton class. And he was absolutely tearing bodies apart in this scene. And this is the mid to late 80s, and they are only showing so much. It's not exactly the boys, but they were definitely putting a lot of blood spatter in to imply that it was a pretty bloody scene. So that is part of the inspiration for this, I would say, heel turn. He was already a heel, but it's a more public heel turn,
right? Where
everyone realizes that maybe this guy isn't the person to take up the shield and to pick up and to carry the mantle.
Right. So going into this next episode that's going to happen in a couple of hours from this recording, we ought to see...
Can't wait. Like Bart Scott. Can't wait.
Exactly. We ought to see the repercussions of this public action going on, which, given how the comic ended up happening, probably the same thing is going to happen here, which we'll talk about next week. So yeah, it was a relatively good episode. It was pretty much more. I mean, this whole series has been pretty straightforward, but yeah, we get to see the turn, and we got to see a damn good fight. That we'll see John get mopped before all this happened.
Right. Right.
So it did what it needed to do.
Absolutely.
So to their credit, they did as much as they needed to do in the time that they had, with this. And we only got 2 more episodes left. The one that's coming out in a couple of hours, and the next one after that. So but a lot has happened, in that, because the episodes are not being broken down as much as WandaVision was.
Right, because there's fewer elements of, and it's obvious there's fewer elements of magic and the mysterious and the fantastical that could really happen here.
Right.
But ultimately, this is more of a character study of the idea of Captain America, alongside so many other things that the showrunners and the writers are exploring in this.
Right. So look out next week when we talk about the episode 5 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we'll see what happens.
You know what's funny, real quick?
What's that?
Isn't it interesting that a lot of the stuff that people bring up in and around this series is what people talked about when they first talked about when is a lot of the discussion and the chatter that came up when they first revealed that Captain America was going to be one of the MCU movies.
Mhm.
Is that how can this character way back in 2010 or 2009, or when they announced it probably in 2008,
Right.
right? Was how could they make that character relevant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how could that character translate into the current day? And the wisest thing that Marvel did was start out with an origin story set in the period of World War II, which is the character's origination, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's a credit to the writing, and it's a credit to the films, and it's definitely a credit to Chris Evans and his acting and his portrayal of Captain America, which led a lot of people to accept the character and really put some of those questions to the side. And it took the Winter Soldier movie, and it took this series to really start to explore this particular aspect of the characters. Like, how does Captain America fit into the 21st century?
Right. But to be fair, I feel like that's the kind of the only way they could have done that. Like, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but it's like if they had just started off with, no, we just got Cap out of the ice, and yeah, here's a quick flashback of what happened to it. Then it's kind of taken up. That would have probably taken up space in another movie for for other stuff that could have happened. Like, yeah. No, they did it. They did it in the proper way, regardless of which
right.
way.
No, because I think exactly what I think is it's all about the execution, right? And I think that was always a fear, right? Mm-hmm. How would they be able to convince people watching these movies that they should sympathize with someone from a bygone era? Right. Or suppose a character from a bygone era, and I think they pulled it off, and totally. It's to their credit. Mm-hmm. And I also give them credit for exploring these issues and these themes in some of the movies, and now they have more room to explore it.
Yeah, and they're going to take all the room for everything, which is not a complaint, but it's like there's a lot of stuff that's coming down the pipe.
Right. So right. And we all, what's funny is that before we wrap this, because we still have another film thing to just quickly talk about. Mm. We still haven't seen another mention of Isaiah Bradley, right? True. So we'll see where they go with that.
I kind of wonder if they actually are.
What's that?
I kind of wonder if they actually are.
Right. No, but they may save that for a Young Avengers thing. We don't know.
Maybe.
We don't know. So we'll see. We will see.
Yeah. So yeah, as we're moving past that. We're gonna really briefly talk about, because there's really not much to say about this. But we're going to talk really quickly about Godzilla versus King Kong, which I finally saw.
So more spoilers if you haven't watched Godzilla versus Kong. But guess what? They fight. It's in the title, so
right.
We're still gonna ring the spoiler bell just out of just to be nice to the folks that really don't want to hear spoilers. So, spoiler alert for Godzilla versus Kong in 3, 2, 1. You should probably go about 5 to 10 minutes ahead, maybe a little less than 10.
Honestly, I wouldn't even know. I was going to say, because there's really not much I have to really say about it outside of what probably more than what I said earlier.
Ringing the bell.
So yeah, it happened. Kong versus the thing finally. It took 3 movies to get to this point, to get to this 4th movie, and here we are. It's a it's a blockbuster action film, just like the others. It's, I don't know, like I wasn't really expecting a whole lot of it, a lot out of it, so I guess my expectations for it was kind of baseline. I'm not saying it wasn't good or it was bad or not, but it is what it was. So yeah, but the whole, there were some things that could have been, like as I was telling Agent 70 earlier, that could have been like so we're just gonna gloss over a couple of these issues, huh?
Right. I mean, they do the barest, as I was telling Roddykat, and I heard this is not an original thought for me, but I laughed. Mm-hmm. This is from Mark Bernardin from Fat Man Beyond this past week, where he talked about the movie, and he said that this is essentially that much of the movie can be described as a story of, so what had happened was, because a lot of it is just moving from set piece to set piece. They do the barest amount of work to create motivation for characters. You get Godzilla attacking Pensacola, Florida. He's attacking Apex Cybernetics plant, and everyone's like, why is he attacking? He's supposed to be a protector. But if anyone is familiar with these monster movies, you know that these monsters don't attack unless they're being drawn by something. Traditionally it was something like nuclear radiation, but in this case, the plot is, and as I said, we rang the spoiler bell. The plot is about this character who's the head of Apex Cybernetics, who is not a fan of the Titans, as these monsters in the legendary Monsterverse are called, and he's looking for a way to regain alpha predator level of for humans.
And here's where I have about it, because this character comes out of nowhere. Another character who is similarly named for another character who was in the last couple of movies, who is no longer around, who apparently might have had a cameo in this movie that I missed. Like people just kind of show up out of nowhere. Characters from the other.
It's a shame that they didn't bring back the character from the King of the Monsters movie, who we see in the post-credit scene.
Exactly.
Take hold of, and this is spoilers for also Godzilla King of the Monsters, folks. Sorry.
Right.
But he takes control of a piece of Ghidorah.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't come up with money for Charles Dance for the next movie.
I'm sitting there, so yeah, right, exactly. So I'm like, okay, so he just goes and gets this Ghidorah head from somebody, and that's it. Like, okay, like I was expecting, like, all right, he's just gonna continue going on this movie. He's gonna be the one that's kind of somewhere in the midst of this, but no, they're just like, no, he's nowhere to be seen. Like I said, this dude just shows up somewhere. We see, like I said, someone who potentially is probably related to a character that died in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but they don't do anything with them outside of, he's just here and he's like doing a thing. Don't even get his motivations for doing all. Although you can kind of, if you've seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, you can kind of imply it, but we don't get none of that. If that's the case, why hasn't there been any reference to Pacific Rim? Because for the life of me, there's no way in the world you watch this movie if you've seen Pacific Rim and not say that there's not a tie. It's the same company even, but that's behind this movie. Like with a lot of stuff that kind of see, especially with Apex Cybernetics or whatever, all the stuff that was going on with that, with what they end up doing. How do we not get a Pacific Rim crossover?
Licensing, folks, licensing. As the resident lawyer on the panel,
True.
It's all licensing.
True.
Because unfortunately, Toho licenses these characters to Legendary. But getting back to the movie, I definitely agree with Roddykat on that point, though. It definitely felt very apt that Pacific Rim should have been like a post-credit scene, like, oh, this is where the Jaeger program comes from, right?
Right.
So so ultimately, we get to what King Kong has been doing, which is growing, and we also find out that there's been some issues with Skull Island, so he's living inside this modified artificial habitat, and
somehow they caught Kong probably while he was sleeping or something, put something in his dinner or something, and they shipped him off and put him in this in the danger room.
Right. That's a big danger room.
Yes.
That's a gigantic danger room. That is as big as it's probably like 2 football fields, if not 3, to give him room to swing around in. But he senses what's going on, and he throws some modified, he throws some makeshift spears into the roof,
which we saw in Kong, which you saw, him doing a similar thing in Skull Island,
Right.
Like we know, if you watch so real quick, the order, if you've not known about it, they've been trying to make this into a whole MCU situation, to decent affair. So Kong Skull Island, which is a real stupid movie, silly movie. Godzilla from a couple of years earlier, because I think that Godzilla movie from 2014 came out after Kong Skull Island, and then Godzilla, then King of the Monsters, then this.
No, it's the other way.
What?
It's the other way. No, Godzilla came out first, then Skull Island.
No, that's what I'm saying. But chronologically, Skull Island first.
Yes, because Skull Island is set Vietnam era.
Right.
Exactly. So chronologically, yes, in terms of the time sets in the movies, Roddykat is absolutely correct, where Kong has been active since roughly Vietnam era time, because that's when that movie is set.
Right.
And Godzilla, the first Godzilla movie, set in more present day. So we get some obviously it's a Godzilla movie. Monster movie, so we get some hokey science where they're talking about traveling to the Hollow Earth, which was explored in the King of the Monsters movie, and they're worried about this reverse gravitational effect. I'm like, why don't they just go the same way they did when they found Godzilla in the underground trench?
So here's my thing about that.
I'm like, come on.
I agree with you on that, but at the same time, I'm like, while they did mention it, especially in this thing about this Hollow Earth, was like, I don't think that was very clear to me in King of the Monsters that that's where they were. Like, I feel like I know they did mention it, or at some throwaway line of that, but because even with Bradley Whitford talking about the whole hollow, the pipes or whatever those he was talking about. So yeah, I know it was mentioned, but I was like, they didn't really make it that point. They make that point clear that that's what that was, outside of some throwaway line.
Right. But anyway. So what they talk about here is that they're trying to explore, and one of the characters had was it a brother that died on an expedition into the Hollow Earth?
Right.
The bad guy here, the CEO of Apex, is like, oh, I've got tech to be that can withstand the reverse gravitational effects, and they can travel there. So they end up hatching this weird plan to have Kong lead them to Hollow Earth, because they have theorized that Skull Island is an outpost of Hollow Earth on the Earth's surface.
Right.
And so they want to have Kong guide them through the Hollow Earth via an entry into the Hollow Earth in Antarctica. Right. Which I guess is sort of a callback to King of the Monsters, where Godzilla is in the ice over there.
No, that wasn't Godzilla. That was
King of the Monsters.
That was no. That was Ghidorah. That was in ice.
Oh, was Ghidorah in the ice? Okay.
Yeah, it was in Ghidorah that was in ice.
Because
Godzilla was already running around at that point.
Right. Ghidorah was in the ice.
Right.
I'm actually remembering a Toho movie now.
Right.
But
and I'm having seen these movies, in the last week, so it was like, surprisingly, I remember way too much than I thought I would of these movies. Because
Right. So as Roddykat said, I'm presuming that it's close to, that's where the Hollow Earth.
I believe I believe that is that's some implication.
Right. So they put Kong, they knock Kong out somehow, right? They've gotten good at at giving him sleeping pills.
Right.
And they get him hoisted onto a boat, a barge, or a tanker, or a tanker, and they're floating him to the Antarctic. And of course, who senses a possible threat to his alpha-ness?
Right. Even though they made great pains to try to stay out of the way of his known traffic and try to stay from him.
So of course Godzilla comes.
Yeah.
And they have a weird fight where somehow Kong finds himself surfing on an aircraft carrier, which somehow still stays afloat when Godzilla jumps on top of it.
Right. I was sitting here like, first of all, we're talking about this way too much than I thought we would. But
this is why I said we should leave a few minutes for it.
I know, but I didn't want to, because I know we're kind of trying to push it on time. But yeah, trust me. There was a lot. I even told AJ7 that there was a lot I could say about this dumb movie if I thought about it. I shouldn't call it dumb, because it was actually all right, but they were all kind of dumb in some points. Regardless, Kong jumps from one aircraft carrier to another. It does not sink. Kong's a
listen,
big ass. Come on.
buoyancy is a principle that keeps these big heavy ships afloat. But if you're putting that much force, that much weight, jumping from ship to ship, you don't think these things are going to crack, break, sink?
Exactly. And they both end up on one of them, and they're fighting. I was like, "There's no way." I was like, because I decided to thought I was like, "Wow, that's a well-built aircraft carrier." But like, I know better. It's like, no, the weight of one of these jokers would be kind of taxing. And I know they probably made, obviously, since they grabbed Kong from Skull Island, and they kind of mentioned because there's this little deaf girl that's in the picture early on, who is apparently has some sway over Kong.
Right. It's revealed that she's communicating with him via a form of sign language.
And she's the most adorable thing about this movie. That's all I can say about that. But anyway, but so that's a whole thing. That's a thing, and they kind of couch that in like, oh yeah, her family was one of the families that was still on Skull Island, and somehow that storm that was already around Skull Island got worse or something. I don't know. Right. It was like that whole thing was like that's. Or it was the storm that was with Ghidorah that was kind of going along. I guess I don't know. They never really make any distinctions.
Yeah, they don't make it clear. That's just weird. That's kind of like a callback to some of the King Kong movies where like the weather around Skull Island, like the seas around Skull Island are really bad.
Right.
But yeah. So so this battle ends up ending because
they play dead.
King Kong is kind of beat up a little bit, and they essentially have the entire fleet play dead.
Right. To be fair, yeah, he almost drowned because you're fighting in Godzilla's element. That it's kind of bound to have it when it gets dragged up, and Kong was trying to keep him over, and the humans actually helped a little bit. So, but so yeah, but they end up playing dead, and kind of Kong's like, all right, whatever, and then Godzilla's just like, all right, peace, I'm out. I did my job here is done. I'm out.
Exactly. He's just like, all right, get to stepping. Right. That's essentially the look he gives too.
Pretty much.
and so here's one of those. So what had happened was moments.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So at this point, somehow they sedate Kong, but somehow they get him on a cargo net, and they can airlift him to the Antarctic so that they don't have to worry about alerting Godzilla to his presence again.
Right. So so Eric Northman pretty much says that, yeah, how's Kong about flying? Because yes, it's the same actor from True Blood that played that character.
Okay.
Some folks might know, because I don't think I've seen him in a minute. That's the other reason why I'm saying it. I know either him and his brothers have been working in one way or another. But anyway, so yeah, so that happened. That they airlifted him to Antarctica and be like, yeah, your way is home. So go home. And they follow him down into the place that's apparently Hollow Earth is like down near I assume near the curve of Earth. We don't. That's not even saying. But there's basically a time warp in the middle of Earth. I mean, not a time warp, but there's a hyperspace lane in the there are hyperspace lanes underneath the Earth, and this one ended up going there, and basically what ended up happening, there's a power source thing that ends up coming into play later on, and Kong still somehow, when this power source gets woken up by Kong's Mjolnir substitute, Godzilla somehow just uses his atomic thruster and just drills through the Earth, which
I was about to say just real quick before, because I know we're getting to the good part, right? But there's another team of human characters that we're meant to follow, and it involves Millie Bobby Brown's character and that annoying kid from Deadpool.
I was going to say, oh wait, was he from Deadpool?
Deadpool 2.
Oh, I never. Okay, that's why. Okay, I hadn't seen it.
Oh yeah, this kid's like mildly annoying.
So yeah, so there's like two different movies going on here. Two almost three different movies going on here at the same time, basically. Millie Bobby Brown's character is the same one from King of the Monsters, and also I keep wanting to call him Ron Livingston, but it's basically bootleg Ron Livingston. Kyle Chandler plays the dad. And I say that because they both did a version of Friday Night Lights, so that's not it is what it is on that one. and they look
Right.
so much alike. Anyway, so they're kind of sidelined, but Millie Bobby Brown just like should have been grounded or chained up or something because she gets into trouble with Brian Tyree Henry, whose character I didn't care too much about because he's basically playing the conspiracy
Right. He's a
guy.
conspiracy theorist podcaster. I mean, come on, can you not make us look bad? So, so essentially, Millie Bobby Brown and this other kid Josh find Brian Tyree
Henry.
What's his name?
Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, Brian Tyree Henry. I was about to say I couldn't remember his last name.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Tyree Henry. They find the three of them meet up, and they essentially go on the hunt because he is also an employee of this Apex company in Pensacola, in Florida.
Right. He embedded himself in there to get to the truth.
Right, exactly. They break in on the search for the truth, and they find a way to get to the Apex headquarters in Hong Kong because somehow Apex has created an underground monorail.
Right. They hyperlooped it.
So to Hong Kong.
Yeah, they straight up made a hyperloop. Now, so here's what I'm thinking about that. Okay, I can see why. So there was an attack. So the attack of Godzilla early in the movie pretty much led to the Pensacola base, Wings of War, being abandoned. But you would think they would have disabled the hyperloop from there.
Well, they were still evacuating their tech,
I suppose, but they had gotten the more important stuff out of there. So you would think they would have,
especially the thing that drew Godzilla.
Exactly. And not only that, but why was there no security at any place?
What are you gonna do?
Until later when they got caught, But
right.
So anyway, they go there, they get caught, they end up in Hong Kong, do this hyperloop because some more shipments of skullwalkers, whatever they call them from Kong, the original Kong, not the original Kong, but the Skull Island movie.
Skull Island, right?
And we don't know whether, but come to find out. The long story short, they end up coming across the fact that this company is making Mechagodzilla, and that ends up getting called, and Mechagodzilla comes into play. And here's where the Pacific Rim thing comes in because apparently they are controlling it Jaeger style, with the exception of one person by this other character that, like I said, comes up in this movie for no reason except for the fact that it's the same name of a character that died in King of the Monsters.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the classic Serizawa name from all the Godzilla movies.
Right.
So,
but again, no tie on that whatsoever.
No, they don't explain a damn thing about this character. Yeah. He's the token Japanese guy.
Right.
So. And it's a shame because the Serizawa name is supposed to mean something in the Godzilla canon. Right. So, and obviously Dr. Serizawa in Godzilla and King of the Monsters, the previous two played a big role.
Shout out to Ken Watanabe.
Exactly. So, but getting back to this, so as Roddykat said, the King Kong team, right? We'll call them the King Kong team.
Sure.
Make their way to the Hollow Earth following Kong, and as Roddykat mentioned, you get the glowing axe, right? Which apparently consists of a dorsal fin plate from Godzilla or one of his ancestors, right? And he gets the power, he charges it up.
Hold on.
Right?
Where was that explained?
What?
It was from Godzilla. It was a plate from Godzilla. Where was that explained?
Or Godzilla's ancestors. It's not explained. It's just implied. See what happened?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't even get that point. I was like, wait.
Well, so it's implied from some of the dialogue that there was an ancient war and they're ancient enemies.
Right, but I didn't get that from that. So
I got you. So as Roddykat, so this was my favorite crazy part of the story, and Roddykat hit it, and just as he was describing it, because he was so wanting to get to this part, because I don't blame him for it. They're in the Hollow Earth, and whatchamacallit, and Godzilla is heading to Hong Kong because he senses Mechagodzilla being active.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what drew him to Florida, so that's what's drawing him to Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And he senses that King Kong is alive and running around in the Hollow Earth. So what does he do? He's powerful enough to blow a hole from the Earth's crust in Hong Kong all the way down, drilling all the way down, not hitting anything else.
Right.
going all the way down into the hollow earth where King Kong is standing.
And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if he had hit the did that beam actually keep going, or was that where it stopped? Because if he hit the Earth core, we would all should have been messed. We all should have been
exactly. I'm like, wait, let's back up for a second. The premise of this movie is that it's Godzilla versus King Kong. Godzilla literally burrowed a hole with his atomic breath all the way down through the Earth's crust. What on earth is going to stand up to that?
That just so happens to hit the exact spot where Kong and the rest of the Kong team happened to be in his throne room, in Kong's whatever throne room.
Right. So you know what? And there's a reason why I'm glad that you were harping on the whole digging to the whole hollow Earth thing, because that this gets referenced later. I'm like, what's going on here? So whatchamacallit, so Kong has to climb up through the hole that Godzilla creates.
Right. And I was expecting, well, clearly Godzilla makes this hole. He's just gonna jump down there and be like, nope, it's about to be on and away from everybody. No, that doesn't happen. Mind you, everybody converges on Hong Kong at this point, because you see, it's like the Kong team was still in Hollow Earth at this point, but they're trying to get away. Well, some of them are trying to get away because of what happened. The Apex people are already there. Ron's Lifts is the people who apparently is back with Monarch, I guess. Monarch is going to go now, and a criminally underused Lance Reddick shows up for like 5 seconds.
Right. He's supposed to be the head of Monarch.
Right.
I actually read into this. He's supposed to be the head of Monarch, but they cut his scenes.
None of that is explained.
He appears out of nowhere.
Right.
But he's one of the actors listed in the credits at the front too. So I'm like, where's Lance Reddick?
Like, he comes in for a scene. Like, how? I hope he got paid well for that. But I'm like, what are you doing?
He had apparently a more lengthy scene that was cut down. But King
Kong
on.
So
I was about to say
the shout out to Sarayu in the chat talking about King Kong and Hong Kong. I like that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see you. Good job, Sarayu.
Nice.
I see you on chat.
But yeah.
So as King Kong climbs out of this thing, this is where the big showdown comes, and it's a 2-part showdown. It's a 2-round battle here. So we get King Kong now equipped with this battle axe, his glowing battle axe, and he takes it to Godzilla and knocks Godzilla out for a brief count.
Right, and as they say, well, I guess round 2 goes to Kong.
Right, and I'm just like, oh, wait a second here. So this is the guy that literally blew a hole into the center of the Earth. I don't think that's gonna take him down.
Right. So exactly. So before this fight happened is where I started saying, well, this is going to herein lies the inevitable part about this. So yeah, so that whole fight happens. Kong gets the upper hand for this brief moment. Mecha Godzilla shows up. Kong and Godzilla. Well, wait, excuse me.
No, not yet. No. Now this is now we're getting to my favorite part of the movie.
So
which is King Kong his ass.
Right, yes. 1870.
Team Godzilla. I was rooting for Godzilla. Right. This movie is meant to have you root for and sympathize with King Kong, but I was cheering on my living room couch like, yes, Godzilla handed King Kong his ass.
Right. So that happens.
Whimpering.
Right. Brett, and pretty much just almost, yeah. So that happens. Kong is kind of down, and it's like and Godzilla just steps on him, like actually steps on me, daddy. Just steps on him, yells at him.
Right, they yell at each other.
But Godzilla's like, ah, and then Godzilla's like, ah, and then it's like, okay, you're right. and Kong's just kind of just laid out there, and he just gets so dejected that he almost dies. But they get this plane jumped out of his heart with the other vehicle that they get from and now here's the other thing. So the team that was still down in Hollow Earth flies back up, which is pretty much Rebecca Hall, Alexander Skarsgård, and the little girl whose name that's escaping me. Cute little girl. But they come back up, fly into the battle. while this is going on. Not almost gets hit by King Kong, but flies pretty much parallel to the beam, to Godzilla's beam. I'm saying, like, how did you not disintegrate being that close to the beam?
So what had happened was
right. So anyway, so the rest of that happened. They said, you know, Kong's down. They do the thing. Meanwhile, this is when Mechagodzilla comes up and mops Godzilla.
And which is wild to me that they have a dueling battle of atomic breath beams, and Godzilla loses.
Right.
He literally just blew a hole into the center of the earth.
But hey, technology, you know,
just saying,
lasers, all that. So that happened. Oh wait.
Maybe it's a Dragon Ball thing where he's already used up a lot of energy, so his next attack isn't as big.
Sure.
Maybe.
Pretty much, yeah. And I love the fact that Age of 70 is watching Dragon Ball so he can get that extra reference. But yes. So this makes me very happy, and I can't wait till he gets to see. Anyway.
It's not as strong now because he's used it up drilling to the center of the earth.
Right. So okay, so we missed one part in which Mechagodzilla pretty much goes rampant because of the fact that they get this new power source, and power source causes havoc with things, and causes dude that's piloting him, remote piloting him, to, I guess, see, we still don't even know what happened with that because we never see this dude again after this. So basically, I'm assuming that his brain gets transferred into Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla, who was already probably kind of a part of a living computer type thing, just goes sentient, or to a point, whatever the case may be, whatever the closest thing was, and just goes run amok.
Right. What's implied, I guess what I'm doing is bringing in some of my Toho experience,
right.
You know, like the Toho movie watching experience. Whereas I think what's implied is that Ghidorah's consciousness takes over.
Right. Okay.
Because I don't think Ren Serizawa, that's the character's name.
Right.
I don't think he's connected long enough. I think he's just like short circuited or whatever. He's killed or at least knocked out.
Yeah, we don't know.
I know. So what had happened was,
right.
So it's implied that Ghidorah's consciousness takes over, and so that's where all of that stuff comes from. Where he kills the bad guy and he breaks out of the mountain, and like, as you said, he's wrecking Godzilla, and it takes a team up to beat. Of course, it takes a team up of Godzilla and Kong to beat.
Right. Almost Batman. Right, Batman Superman style. They end up having a team up after just fought and going after this other enemy.
No, I mean that's tradition. It's tradition amongst all of these versus type battles. Yeah, it's.
But it's also the closest, the closest one to this ilk in a big blockbuster situation. So,
right. But, so they basically have Godzilla soak up all the damage, and Kong gets to run in and finish the job because Godzilla superpowers he powers up his axe.
Right. It was like, oh, let me give him, since fine, we're not enemies, so let me power up his axe so that he can get the finishing blows in. You know, because let's face it, out of the three of them, Kong would have been outmatched. As much as I hate to say it, Kong would have been outmatched if it was a one-on-one with Mechagodzilla and he.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Yeah. Kong no slouch, but still, So yeah, so at the end of the movie, I know the mocap had to have been pretty fun for this, I would assume. So, and they're in Tokyo, and it's all neon and that. So, mind you, I think this is probably
Hong Kong.
Excuse me, Hong Kong. Yes. So this is probably the closest to anywhere near Japan that they think they've gotten in any of these movies. I don't know why that's a point that I'm bringing up, but I felt like that was the thing I thought about in the course of that last fight. But anyway. Kong kind of sits down because it's like, yeah, the fight's over. He's leaning up against a building, all like, I'm tired, And this is where the part in the buddy cop movie.
I was about to say we left out the fact that the humans actually had a part in them beating Mechagodzilla because Mechagodzilla was actually killing them too.
Well,
killing Godzilla, where all they did was, and it was funny,
right?
But I felt bad at the same time because I thought they were like attacking me for having like HTML skills from the 90s.
Right. So So the human component in this, which is Millie Bobby Brown, this kid, and Brian Tyree Henry, are still in the Apex base, and they're like, well, Mechagodzilla's still connected, so we got to do something. So they end up pouring, which I didn't expect it to come up in this way, but I guess this was probably the best way it was going to come up. Brian Tyree Henry's character had this bottle of alcohol that he was saving for when he was pretty much giving up hope.
This was Japanese whiskey, like really, really highfalutin Japanese whiskey. I don't know if it was sake, but it's definitely Japanese alcohol.
Exactly, right. Which I've been seeing a lot of that lately. So, or just out and about. So that's kind of funny. But anyway, or Japanese whiskey anyway. But so yeah, so the kid Josh takes the bottle, pours it over the console, and
he shorts everything out, and
right.
That's how Kong and Godzilla can gain the upper hand.
Right. So I'm sitting here like, okay, I guess that went the way it was supposed to go. Because you've seen scenes like that before. It's like either they were going to kick the whole thing or beat it up or some kind of way, or pour some water on it. It was going to be one of those three, and that's what they do. Or and that happens, and yeah. So sure, they did help. Sure.
Right. So as Roddykat was getting at, the two monsters just before the end of the movie, right? Because Kong basically takes a break. He literally just has to sit down and be like,
I'm tired.
Right. And then Godzilla, you hear the roar and you see Kong stand up. He grabs the axe, and it's obviously symbolic as they're facing off one last time, as the humans are just like, oh, we're all gonna die.
Right.
Kong drops his axe.
Right.
Buries his axe, and Godzilla walks away.
Right. Yeah. And Godzilla kind of looks like, yeah, I'm gonna let you cook. You did help me out there. So, and then he just walks on off, like just strolls on off. And we see Godzilla in the front, and we see Kong in the back, and they're just chilling. It's like so. But at the very end of it, we end up with Kong back in Hollow Point or Hollow Earth, and the survey in the King Kong team pretty much set up shop down there as opposed to where they had them, and that's pretty much. And we see again the little girl, who's been talking to Kong, and the movie just ends. Sadly, I was expecting there to be, for some strange reason, I expected there to be an end credit scene for setting up something else. I don't know what possibly could it have been.
Right. Right. I mean, the news was talking about how this is supposed to be the fulfillment of the Toho contract, or the legendary contract with Toho.
Right.
So if they're going to continue this, or if all the rights are going to revert back to Toho, or Toho's going to license them to another studio, that's anyone's guess.
Well, didn't Toho pretty much go their own way and do, because Shin Godzilla is pretty much Toho.
Oh yeah, it is. But the point is whether or not they're willing to let Legendary continue on with this monster verse. Right. That's what I mean. Or if they're just gonna let it lay fallow for a little while, let it lay quiet for a little while, and then restart it. It's not. It's something that Toho has done in the past. But it's interesting that what I read is that observation post on the Hollow Earth thing was supposed to be the end credit stinger.
Oh, okay.
But they made it part of the movie.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Because that would have been like, yeah, all right, sure. That would have been a weak one if they had.
Right. So I'm glad we had a chance to complain about this, because I had a chance to. I had a few chances to talk about the movie and complain about it, but
I have thoughts on all four of those movies. Believe you me, but yeah, they're not worth getting into at this point.
Yeah, exactly. What's funny is that they definitely listened to some of the fan critique going from Godzilla moving into the next movies, because a lot of people complained you only saw Godzilla for like brief glimpses in the first movie because it's dark. You see him as the doors are closing, and that's the worst.
Right. Or as I saw in an honest trailer for Kong Island, and I had a problem with this too. Like, no one sees Kong sneak up on them. Big ass King Kong. No one hears this. Like, he's just pussyfooting around Kong Island. No one hears this. Ever.
That's funny. I gotta watch that honest trailer.
Yeah. It was like because they had the director, and then he and then I was like, that's kind of weird to have on one of these, but I know they have done that before. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, check out honest trailers if you get a chance. Some of those things are actually kind of funny. Some of them.
I mean, listen, overall, I enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, sure.
Because it was just fun. But as Roddykat said, there's just so many crazy twists in the story. Like, how do we get here?
Right. Like, granted, I suspect it's supposed to be like, nah, just don't think about it too much. It's a blockbuster. Just let it roll. Just let it wash over you. But that was still kind of hard to do.
Right. And I honestly agree with some people's thoughts that I kind of wish I had been at a movie theater to watch it.
Yeah, sure.
Just to kind of be bathed in the sound and the spectacle.
Sure, yeah.
You just kind of feel it around you.
Yeah, totally. I can see that because it was pretty much made for that,
Right.
For that
right.
situation.
Like, I don't know, everyone's home setups vary. I do have a subwoofer, so I do feel the bass, but I don't have surround sound in the living room.
Yeah, I got kind of half of it. Like, I pretty much got the front part of it. I don't have the
exactly. I just have a sound. I have like a really good sound bar to boost, to get good audio, and I've got a subwoofer.
Right.
But I don't have like the biggest TV in the world, but yeah, like part of me is just like I would have liked to watch this movie in the theaters, and really get that cinematic experience.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous, and there we are. So we're going to move on because we are kind of we
went pretty long on these, but it was fun because they were just fun experiences. So definitely, I recommend watching the movie just because it's fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. But if you haven't watched any of the previous ones, I would say go ahead and do that to kind of, because if you don't, you'll be more of what because the only real through line in all of the movies are Monarch. Like, that's it. Because pretty much, like, from movie to movie, like, characters show up or don't show up, or characters show up for a couple of movies and then just inexplicably either die, or a character shows up, like we said earlier, shows up and then don't show up in the next movie where you would think they would.
Right.
So it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, but you at least get that.
I agree. Anyway. All right, so we're going to transition over to regular old comic news.
We sure are. Well, to
comic reviews.
Yeah. And we're going to start off with Black Cat. I guess we can kind of sort of rapid fire a couple of these after this one. But Black Cat number 5 is what we're going to start off with.
Right. Black Cat number 5 is written by Jed MacKay with art by Michael Dowling, colors by Brian Reber, and letters by Ferran Delgado. So we get here the reveal of the actual plot that the fox, that that the Black Fox, I want to call him the Silver Fox, that the Black Fox has been hatching, that Felicia Hardy has been helping to implement over the entire course of Jed MacKay's run on Black Cat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. I basically said in my notes, there's a lot of exposition here that either we should have known by now or have not known anything about, and we're just getting here in a kind of touching exposition dump. Like, they did it probably in the best way they could. But it worked out because like I wasn't really complaining about it. But it's like there's a lot of exposition coming up front for what's going on here going into this next part,
right?
Which was needed, honestly.
Definitely. Because a lot of this, and one of the things that came up as Roddykat and I were trying to decide on what book to talk about up front was that in this issue we find out a lot of the things that we had speculated upon,
right?
Which were the connections of the New York Thieves Guild and how that was connected to the greater Thieves Guild around the world and throughout the United States, which is a concept that we were introduced to back in the Jim Lee X-Men days, with Kandra and Belladonna in New Orleans, and Gambit being part of the Thieves Guild, and that being a really integral part of his solo mini-series storytelling and his solo series storytelling being him being an active member of, or even the leader of the Thieves Guild, I think at one point. But they differentiate the New York Thieves Guild from that whole thing, but they do tie them together. And part of that tie together is what is the basis of the Black Fox's scheme here.
Right. To which, and if you don't know the character of Black Fox by now, Black Fox pretty much taught Felicia everything she knows, but still kind of kept some information up until just now, which, I guess kind of will come in handy in this next arc. But also shown to be one who's like, he doesn't necessarily give away his whole hand, even with people he knows and loves,
Right.
So that's where this whole exposition kind of thing kind of comes into, or part of this exposition thing comes into as they go set off to do this heist, which ends up not being the heist that Felicia thought it was going to be, but ends up being a play to take something away from the guild and give to themselves.
Right. It kind of plays out. It kind of played out like, I don't know if you watched. We've always been fond of comparing this series, this McKay written Black Cat series, to the Ocean's movies, like the more modern Ocean's movies. Did you watch Ocean's 8 with Sandra Bullock and Kate Blanchett?
No, actually, now that I think
This
about it.
kind of reminded me of that more so than the Danny Ocean's movies,
Right.
because there's an obvious misdirection.
Okay.
And the goal of the heist isn't exactly what everyone thinks it is. And so that's the part that I think makes more has more of a connection to the Ocean's 8 movie, with the female-led Ocean's movie.
Right. And
so
other movies
that's
of
really
the
the
past
connection that I found between the two.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, that one I'm pretty sure I think I've only seen probably one of those movies in whole. Because I think I've watched like pieces of the other ones, but some of the other ones, but not.
Right.
You know.
I mean, 11 is the best.
Right.
11 is the best, because it's just fun. It still holds up, which is funny. Right. Even though it was made before the era of the smartphone, it still holds up.
So yeah, but yeah, but this issue of Black Cat, despite not saying action is the draw here for this book or any book at large, but the exposition is pretty much, and the whole bit within the touching moment with Cat and Fox was good. That's pretty much what you're coming in here for before they get to the end and the whole.
We definitely needed this, though. We needed this because we had kind of been strung along, and unfortunately, this book did run into crossover problems with King in Black. They did tie it into King in Black pretty well, I thought, but and still advance their own stories. But at the end of the day, I think that part of the structure of the reboot with King in Black probably led to them structuring this story to be like, to really dump it. A lot of the exposition in this one issue,
right?
But it's a critical issue if you are looking to catch up on Black Cat. Don't catch up with this issue, but this is the issue that you need to read so that you're up to date, because there's a lot of explaining, like Ricky would ask Lucy in this.
Right. Nice. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums that up. You want to go to the other actual King in Black tie-in? I guess while we're kind of sort of
Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
Sure. Fantastic Four number 30. It's written by Dan Slott with art by Zay Carlos, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Take it away.
So this starts off, as a King in Black tie-in, but pretty much goes directly into the aftermath of it. Like half of the issue is pretty much, hey, it's tied into King of Black, and we come back to the fact that Johnny and Ben had been nullified, as the saying goes. And what Sue and Reed and the rest of the crew are doing about that, and in their respective places, because the kids are still at the gate, and Valeria gets taken over at the same time, leaving Franklin to kind of fend. But there's also some, I guess, some truth serum that kind of happened during the course of this, but I guess was the main part of why this was set up the way it was, because some things kind of came out between the nullified folk and the people and the folks that were kind of defending against them during the course of this, that could pretty much cut to the bone. But again, like I said, we kind of come out of that to, because they even say at the end of it, like, yeah, go to King of Black 5 to see what happens after that. So if you've been reading King in Black, you've already got to, because that came out like last week.
Right.
So we then cut to after that where they're trying to rebuild the Yancey Street, and you see Ben. And I don't know how long after this, because that's what, but I guess it kind of really doesn't matter, because you kind of see Ben and Johnny still kind of like, yeah, or Ben in particular is like, yeah, I said a lot of things under the influence, that I didn't mean, and he and Reed kind of hash that out, and then there's that whole thing with Johnny and Sue, and they even touch on the Valeria and Franklin thing also, but that was kind of like, but the Johnny and Sue thing, of which, because there was the whole thing where just like Sue's like, not necessarily hovering, but kind of watching him at every point, and which still happens at the end of this, in a way, because Johnny thinking he's got the upper hand, when he kind of skips off with Sky, but apparently Sue is still there being a nosy busybody,
Right. And that's where we end the issue.
Right.
What did you think about this move by Sue Richards? Part of me couldn't blame her because of the nature of how they got together, and also Johnny's unfortunate bad history with women.
Sure, being the big sister and the one that's been looking out for him, for the most of their life, I guess, at this point. I kind of get that, but at the same time, like,
right, he's a grown up. He should
Right,
know.
he's
You got to let him make his own mistakes. I'm like, wait, he's made a lot of mistakes over the
Right,
over the
exactly.
course of the comic history.
But you're right, and it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, okay, yes, he has made a lot of mistakes, but at some point he's got to grow up, like,
Exactly.
which granted for Johnny, that's probably going to take a good while, but he's trying at the very least, and she should at least give him the benefit of the doubt, which, yeah.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the Peter Parker problem, right? Like, do you marry him, and do you make him married with children and age him, and kind of move him up, and not that I'm not going to use the whole relatable argument, because I've never agreed with that,
right?
But in a sense, like, do you put him into that mold?
Right.
Do you give him that, like, that extra familiar responsibility?
See, the problem with that is I don't believe that, just like Peter, I don't think it would change him that much.
It all depends on how you frame the story, whether or not you're willing to put in, like, family, like that extended family thing.
Yeah, it depends on who's writing.
Because we've seen some of that. We see some of that with what was it, the J.J. Abrams Spider-Man story?
Right.
So it all depends. But like I said, I think that's part of the issue with Johnny Storm's character.
Sure. Like, I feel like Johnny's gonna be Johnny regardless in some way, shape, or form, and I don't think him getting married and kind of growing and getting a little bit more responsibilities on him would change that much. That is pretty much my interpretation of the character classically. So I don't know, but it is what it is, and we'll see what's going to happen after that at the outside of it. But we're pretty much going into a new arc, and sounds like we're going to get back to going through the gate and getting that stuff out of the way.
Right, exactly. We're getting away from the King in Black tie-in, which was unfortunately 2 issues for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, so 2 issues late in the game at that, because like I said, King in Black pretty much ended last week.
Right.
So that being said, though, we can move on to you got another one you wanna?
Yeah, there's one other book that I wanted to talk about. I don't think you've read it though.
Okay.
I'm looking at your list real quick, because I know we want to get through some of these books quickly. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about, because I can cover my potential click of the week, my real strong contender. I see you've highlighted Guardians of the Galaxy number 13. You want to talk about that real quick?
Oh, did I have it highlighted? Oh, no. I was sure. Yeah, we could do that.
I was about to say, or you want to talk about Children of the Atom?
I was thinking Nonstop, but
Nonstop it is.
Nonstop
it is.
Just kind of get that one out of the way.
Yeah, let me pull that up. Do you want to go through the credits?
Sure. So, Nonstop Spider-Man number 2 is what we're going to be talking about, and the creative team is. Oh, that's not it. The creative team is writer Joe Kelly, pencils by Chris Bachalo, or Bachalo, depending on, I'm not sure how that's said. Inks by Tim Townsend with Al Vey and Wayne Foucher. Colors by Marcio Menez. And letters by VC's Travis Lanham, which I don't know why I got an X there instead of a C because I must have been tired. So yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, and we talked about this the last time this book comes up. It's fun, but it's also slightly groan-inducing on my part for some of the language, and we'll probably get rid of that, some of that out of the way. But we definitely get a little bit more of what's going on with the not necessarily the plot, but sure, we'll go with that. So Spidey and Nora Winters kind of teams up, and they make a point to say that this is happening before the current events of Spidey, which is, got Spidey kind of going into a more social media direction, and working with Nora Winters again. But they're pretty much working together on this one to kind of dope out from different perspectives on of what's been going on. And then we come to find out that Nora actually does have a sort of personal stake in this, as opposed to just trying to get a news story out of this. But it's still just as much about a news story in it for her. So yeah, so we get a little bit more about what's going on. I don't know how I kind of feel about that. So basically we find out what the bad guys have been doing with this designer drug that they made up, and during the course of this we kind of get a little bit more on that. And at the end, Baron Zemo comes back into play, talking very uncharacteristically, I still contend, then classically. And Agent 70 pretty much said, well, I'll let him say what he said about the how the characterizations are.
Right. I mean, my guess, and this is just a guess, this is simply purely conjecture on my part. I wonder if Joe Kelly had an opportunity to maybe not watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier ahead of time, but maybe met with the writing team. Marcus, is it Marcus Spellman? The showrunner.
Mm-hmm.
Is that his name?
Mark Spellman. Yes.
Yeah, Marcus Spellman. So, maybe he had some notes from Kevin Feige as to how they were looking to characterize Baron Zemo in the Falcon Winter Soldier movie, and I wonder if that's related. That's all. As it's not necessarily true synergy, but more in line with how they are portraying him in the movies.
Right.
Updating, not necessarily wiping out all of the old continuity, but definitely updating the character.
Yeah, I don't believe that's the case, because I feel like, or it's less of the case because, one, why? Two, well, no, that still stands. Why? Despite that, and I don't know how much lead up time. Well, we know how much lead up time that they have comics, or it's usually like 6 months, unless this was a story that was done, prior to, and just now being, because there are situations where, yeah, there's some old story that they're sitting on, and they just so happen to publish it now, Skype situation. So it could very well be that case. But if it is a new story that they just kind of had the normal 6 month lead on, I feel like that would not really track with Falcon, with them getting anything on Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but sometimes these shows are written that far in advance. That's my point. Like, not necessarily watching, but definitely getting notes.
Sure.
So,
oh yeah, like I'm saying, like I said, they've been like they pretty much had a good clump of Falcon and Winter Soldier in the can probably by the time they even dreamed this up. So it's possible, but I kind of wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, purely conjecture. Right. I would just add a couple of quick notes on the art. Bocciolo's art in this is as hyperkinetic as normal, but actually, I think this issue is easier to make out than the last issue.
You think so? I think it's still a little bit busy in spots, especially getting to the end with the fight.
I thought this was a lot easier to make out.
Okay.
Just the transitions from panel to panel,
mm-hmm.
because sometimes that's where he gets me. Where panel to panel, I'm just like, how did this happen from this panel?
Right.
But I definitely think this one was a little, at least in my opinion, was a little easier to follow. But it's still fun. It's hyperkinetic. It's just, his Spidey's just always on the move.
Right. Again, the writing, some writing choices in using more modern dialogue with the characters kind of sticks with me as a, but
Hey, and as I mentioned to Roddykat, I know I have incorporated the word fam into my vocabulary over, maybe the last year or two. But it was fun to see Peter put that in. It's literally on the second page of the story. It says, "Don't worry, fam."
right. And I'm like, yeah, that's yeah. I guess. Again, and we kind of talked about this with the last issue. Like there was some choice dialogue written out that's like, really, why is it, including Zemo at the end, like, why is this character talking about this? And like I said, not to go back and stick on that again, because that's what we were just finished talking about. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a thing. It's still, like I said, it hasn't killed me from reading this book, but depending on how deep they've planned on going with it, it might. Like I think this is only what, 5-issue miniseries. Actually, wait, no, this is ongoing, isn't it?
This is an ongoing, but I don't know how long Kelly sticks with it, so we'll see.
Right. So yeah, we'll see how long that is. Anywho, that being said, we can move on to something else, or we can actually go to rapid fire, I guess.
We can go to rapid fire. There's a lot of the stuff that we can cover quickly. But before we go into rapid fire, there is one book this week that neither of us got to, and I kind of wish I had gotten to it. And that is Spider-Man Spider Shadow #1. It is a what if story. The premise is, what if Peter Parker had held onto the Venom symbiote costume. So, and it's a 4-issue limited series, as I understand it. But I regret not getting to that this week. So I'm going to try to get to that this weekend.
Sure. For me, though, there was actually one, and let me see, pull up the news real quick. There we go. So MPLS Sound is one for me that I've been kind of wanting to get to, and I think it's a graphic novel. But
was it this week or
no? It's this week. Yeah.
Oh, it was out this week. Okay.
Yes, this
Who's
week.
It by?
Written by Joseph Ilyich, who is an editor of note in the comic book industry, and Hannibal Taboo, with art by Meredith Langston, and colors by Tan Shu, looks like. But it's pretty much a slice of life graphic novel surrounded by the Minneapolis sound. And I'm reading from Comixology here, actually, when it says, the ultimate love letter to funky pop rock sound that made the artist formerly known as Prince a legend. 1-volume release of independent stories. When Prince burst on the music scene in 1978, he put Minneapolis on the map. Consequently, many up-and-coming acts followed on the trail that he blazed. This is the story of Star Child, a group that almost made it to stardom in 1983. Led by a young woman whose desire to change the world through her music ignited a revolution. Through Star Child's journey, MPLS Sound chronicles from a distance the rise of a musical genius and the rebirth of a city. So that's something.
I see. So it's right. So it's a trade paperback,
right?
And it's published by Humanoids. So that's some of the key information that folks need. It was on sale this week, and you can cover price is $19.99. So you can order this, folks, through your comic book. You can get it online, as Roddykat mentioned,
right?
And you can also order this through your local comic book shop.
Right. So I'm assuming that's hardback because on Comixology says it's $13.99, but if you're a part of their unlimited thing, it's a few cents off of that. So, but yeah.
This is the I'm talking about. Yeah, this is the no, this is it doesn't say that it's hardback or not, but
or it's very physical. It's physical.
Yeah, definitely. I'm talking about physical ordering through the comic book shop. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's published by Humanoids Publishing, as I said. All right.
So yeah, that's
so. We're gonna start rapid fire. Let me spin it up.
rapid fire quiz, which is going to come up in a.
I was about to say, did we talk about seeing the
Oh,
Fast
we're
and
going to. We are going to.
All right. So let's go through this. First things first for me, Batman the Detective #1 of 6. This is a miniseries written by Tom Taylor with art by Andy Kubert, colors by Brad Anderson, and letters by Clem Robbins. This is a feature tale of Batman. This is Batman well into his career, and he is on following clues to a mystery which involves a plane being taken down and the current knight, which is like the Batman equivalent in England, being taken down also. And that's where the mystery starts. So it wasn't bad. It was a pretty interesting read. Andy Kubert's art is sharp. It's not for everyone, but it was pretty good. Moving on is Children of the Atom #2, written by Vita Ayala with art by Bernard Chang, colors by Marcelo Naiolo, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So I definitely get the whole mutant dumb thing, like protecting your kind and protecting your borders. But I was like, whoa, we're getting this weird kind of conversation between Storm and 3 Avengers. We get Captain Marvel, and Iron Man. I was like, wow, that's not exactly how I hear these characters. I'm not against how Vita Ayala chose to voice these characters, but I didn't necessarily agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely understand the idea behind, when you're talking about, they're literally talking on the grounds of the Krakoan consulate or the
Right.
Krakoan embassy.
I mean, it's definitely conversations between mutants and humans that kind of fit in the vein of what's been going on, in current storylines. So, but yeah, I did feel like it was just a little bit off. Like, are they going to start into a fight? No, okay,
Yeah, just a little off. I definitely saw it when the opening part of the conversation happens with Mystique. Right, that I understood, sort of. It's weird to see some of these bad guys speaking like Krakoans.
right,
Like they're not. It's like they're not themselves. So that's what's weird.
right.
But it's also part of the whole concept, right? But ultimately, I actually got a kick out of seeing the ab workout. I was just like, wow, that's actually a pretty solid looking workout there.
Right.
On the first page, that's posted by one of the characters, and we get some more background on one of these young X-Men quote unquote characters, and we get some more background into the rest of them as well. And as Roddykat said, we still haven't found out too much. We're still sort of in the same place as we were in the first issue, but we may end up finding out over the course of this opening arc what these kids are or what they are not.
Pretty much.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Next up is Daredevil #29, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Marco Cicchetto or Cacchetto, with colors by Marcio Meniz and letters by Clayton Cowles. So in this issue, we have, it's the continuing saga of Matt Murdock being in jail and being a target of attacks from the Warden. Meanwhile, Elektra is holding down Hell's Kitchen and as her own form of Daredevil, and it seems like she's taken on an apprentice, and also has chosen to enforce things her way in Hell's Kitchen. And that's the broadest way I'll put it and the vaguest way I'll put it, because if you read this, you will understand what I mean when I say that. So things have been put in motion by Zdarsky. It's important that you backtrack and read the Daredevil annual from last year, because there is a development in this issue that comes up where that foreknowledge will help. but it's not necessary. It's not completely necessary, but it helps because they do put in a little footnote that you should go back and check that out. All right, next up is Guardians of the Galaxy number 13. I know that Roddykat read this. It's written by Al Ewing with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So it's not the Nova Corps anymore who are handling 8x8 emergencies.
No, it is not.
Go ahead, take it.
Oh,
Actually, because I figured, even though I'm running the rapid fire, I figure you want to talk about this book.
I mean, a little bit. Like, yeah, the Guardians have pretty much come in and handle. They're the ones handling big situations around the galaxy, big and small. And apparently, Super Scrolls is the man in the chair, I guess, at this point. Who's may or may not be directing them or not, but we don't know. But yeah, something happens on the Kree Skull Alliance homeworld with the progenitors, and they go and take care of that. Meanwhile, there's this other group of Guardians who's trying to figure out what's happened to some surveyors on another planet that they're trying to survey for some reason. And they come across a Skrull fire cult. And this was interesting. Well, to me, because we see Quasar, the OG Quasar, whom we haven't seen in a minute. And it was like, I was like, I wonder. Well, actually, and I thought about it then. I was like, wonder where he's been and whatnot. And then to come to find out that he's doing a Captain Marvel, the OG Captain Marvel body switch with the new Quasar, Everil Kincaid, who we ended up meeting in Avengers Pleasant Hill, I believe it was, or one of those. I can't remember. It was one of those joints. But we hadn't seen her a whole lot. But apparently there was a footnote to the Guardians of the Galaxy annual from 2019 that kind of explains how they got into this current situation they are. But so those two things happen, then we kind of kick back to the Kree thing, where they pretty much mop that up, and if someone else who you wouldn't necessarily expect to be in this book shows up out of the blue at the end of it and just kind of wrecks shop. And we knew this character was going to come into this book, but still, like, if you did not have that foreknowledge, you would have been like, why is this character in this book? And that is one Victor Von Doom, aka Dr. Doom, comes in at the last minute. Just like, you could have just said, hey, how y'all, or something. I pretty much got in my notes, like, he came in the most Dr. Doom way he could have it at this point.
He absolutely did. Now I'm going to tell you something. I definitely got vibes from the Flag Smashers, from what do they call themselves? The Flame,
yeah. It was a Skrull fire cult. I can't remember what they call themselves though.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking for. But I got a kick out of it. I was like, oh my gosh, the Brethren of the Forgotten Flame, right? So I definitely got Flag Smasher vibes from that.
Sure.
It's like, look, your credits are worthless and nobody cares. You're here because you lost everything to the collapse, because everything collapsed because of I guess Null.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I kind of got Flag Smasher vibes there. All right. I don't have too much to add to that other than you talked about the body switch. I got the Flag Smashers in there. Don't think there's anything else I really wanted to add, but I thought that was pretty funny that Color was the guy in the chair. All right, next up is Iron Man number 8, written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Angel Unzueta, colors by Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So it is the continuing adventure of Iron Man's misfit team in space as they are engaged with Korvac and his semi-misfit team of Iron Man villains. And this is really, surprisingly, a Hellcat-centric issue, because Hellcat is contacted by a former Avenger teammate Avengers teammate to help reawaken some powers that had been taken away from her way back in Defenders issue 77. I
Right.
am not sure what year that is, but that is almost likely a very long time ago
Yeah,
in
probably.
our time.
Yeah, probably if late 70s, early 80s, so it's around that part probably. Yeah, Moondragon shows up from, I don't know how she had time to do that when she was in Guardians, but I guess she could just astrically like, "Poof, I could,
She shoes up psychically.
right,
She doesn't show up in person, so that's how she's able to show up.
sure,
And she's essentially in Patsy Walker's head as there's a little bit of a walk down memory lane,
sure.
dealing with past relationships, past struggles, and she finds her power being locked away essentially, and which is essentially what Moondragon explains is what she did. She didn't take it away, but sort of locked it away.
Right.
And I guess part of Cantwell's motivation in this book is to revamp Hellcat and make her far more formidable than she has been ever, almost, for
Mhm.
most of my reading history, maybe even Roddykat's reading history.
Huh. Like I vaguely remember her having some sort of psychic abilities, but it was like it seemed kind of weird that she even had those given,
I never remembered her with that. I was just like, oh, she's just, a kind of a Tigra type, cat person,
accurate because because the
So
original because Tiger was the original Hellcat.
exactly. But that, that was always my impression growing up. So not having the internet, not having Marvel Unlimited at my fingertips, I was never that familiar with Hellcat's origin. One of those times when I really would have benefited from reading her entry in the Ohatmu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, next up is Maestro War and Pax number 4, written by Peter David, with art by Javier Pina, with a backup story art by Herman Peralta, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So the Pantheon thinks they've got the Hulk right where they want him, but they do not.
Mm-hmm.
And Banner is in his head, and apparently this is where Banner, in this prequel story to Hulk Future Imperfect, decides to let the Maestro Hulk personality loose, for real.
Right.
And there are some serious ramifications to that,
And I'm seeing
both to the Pantheon and to other characters that have shown up in these 2 miniseries.
yeah, which also brings up some curiosities because one, which Hulk is this? Like, is this actually Devil Hulk grown up? I mean, like gotten older, or is this like another Hulk? Like, is this Maestro personality another one? I'm assuming it's Devil Hulk, but I don't know. But regardless, also, yeah, so someone else that gets taken out is AIM in this situation, and MODOK says a throwaway line about we will become the Avengers, like we will be avenged, or we will become the Avengers, and or something like that. So I'm thinking, it's like, is this a tied to Avengers of the Wasteland, which I don't think so. But like, what is that? What's that one about? Like, unless that's gonna come up someplace else.
Well, that might be what I was going to say. Is that might be a reference to where Peter David wants to take this. I don't know if they've talked about what they're going to do post this particular miniseries.
Right, because Avengers of the Wasteland was already a thing.
Right. I mean, I'm not that familiar with the whole Wasteland Old Man Logan storyline, which I don't think is in this timeline.
I think it is. Yeah.
We've
had this conversation before, so we don't. I mean, it's
we've gone through this before, because I think what I read was that they pulled that Maestro from another timeline into the Old Man Logan timeline. But that's time travel for you. It's meant to confuse us all, right?
Yeah. But there was also the other side of this where Doom in the beginning, which was kind of funny. Speaking of Dr. Doom, is trying to take over Maestro's territory and not having such good luck with doing so.
Right. So, but ultimately, I don't know where they're if they're going to continue on with this, but this is still a good prequel story to Hulk Future Imperfect.
Right. And then there's a backup story that has to do with the Pantheon, which I have no idea where that's going at this point, given what happened in this issue. Which, granted, that takes place like before this happens. So
Right.
don't know
Right.
what
I guess
that
it's
set
I
up.
guess it's to partially explain where these characters were.
I guess.
So we'll see. Next up for me is Thor number 14. It's written by Donny Cates, art by Nick Klein, colors by Matt Wilson, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. This is the finale of the current Prey storyline, and thankfully, last week's or 2 weeks ago, Beta Ray Bill. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
I think it was last week.
The previous Beta Ray Bill miniseries came out, and I kind of complained that it I guess had minor spoilers for how this Prey storyline ends, but it turns out that they weren't too bad. But this is a pretty epic conclusion to this storyline. There's some great splash page art. There is some politics involved, some family issues involved. There is a callback to traditional Norse mythology. Beta Ray Bill does make a pretty strong appearance in this. And it's overall just a really well executed issue. As I said, there is a callback to the original Norse mythology here at the end of this issue. So I'm definitely this is definitely a potential click of the week for me. Last but not least is Wolverine number 11. It's written by Benjamin Percy, pencils by Scott Eaton, inks by JP Mayer, and colors by Matthew Wilson, with letters by VC's Cord Pettit. I'm not a fan of this whole Dracula storyline that's happening in the pages of Wolverine. The crux of the issue of the story is that and it's explained in this issue, is that the Dracula vampire group is looking to work with Wolverine's healing factor in his blood to help them become daywalkers. That's the crux of it. And I'm not so keen on this idea, but hey, it does make some sense. It's a different way around their one of their primary weaknesses, being sunlight. So, that's one way to look at it.
Right.
So, it's not bad, but that's it for me this week.
All right, cool. Then, and since we've kind of gone on through most of the books that I've also read, only got a couple left. Power Pack number 5, which is the last issue of this miniseries. Written by Brian North, art by Nico Leon, color artist Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Wolverine, and Power Pack role play to get the Wizard's attention. And it kind of made me wonder about something. It's like, wait, Power Pack is as long as I've known them, at times they have obscured their identities at certain ways, but for the most part, they've pretty much operated without masks. So how in the world have they still kept their identity secret after all this time? I do not know. But nevertheless, they pretty much get the upper hand on the Wizard and get their powers back. Spoilers. And I have a note here that says it's still a better fight than wrestling, because you should definitely check this out for the fight between the stage fight that Power Pack sets up. It's pretty amusing. It's pretty cute. But yeah, but it's a nice, neat ending. It doesn't necessarily set up anything going forward, but I'm sure Power Pack is going to be around for the foreseeable future, possibly. So I'm sure, as it says at the at the end of the book, it's like, yeah, look for Power Pack out in the universe of sorts. So yeah, I'm sure they'll be around in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And my last book is The Next Batman, Second Son, number 7. So, it's written by John Ridley, art by Travel Foreman. What is this? Oh shoot, what did I do? I'm gonna say inks. Inks by Travel Foreman and Norm Rapmond. Colors by Rex Locus, and letters by Darren Bennett. So Jace gets some intel on Arcadine, or Arcadine, I don't know how to pronounce this, and his people, because he found out that it was in Gotham. I guess he gets a call back to somebody from his past, which I don't know honestly whether we've seen this person or not. Mama Fox ends up going to the police to get a case, to get information on a case sealed up because of a court case that the Foxes are involved with. I guess it might be damning to them or something if that's the case, because the whole time during this thing, Lucius and the mom have, while being on opposite sides of this pre-future state business going on, but they also had this one court case that's going on that may or may not have come out. I mean, that's been from something in the pages of Batman. I don't know, because I don't read Batman that closely. So, and then like Lucius also has a moment with Luke that he seems a little out of sorts, which is kind of uncharacteristic for Lucius. But Luke's is like, maybe you might want to see somebody from that, and Lucius is like, nah, I'm good. You might want to see somebody for your issues. So we'll probably see what's going on with that at a later, I guess. But then it turns into Jason and Jace and the mom going to this deposition, and them two saying like, you know, mom just wants him to read off the sheet, you know, just to see what's it. And Jason's like, nah, I got to be truthful. You know, I got to speak the truth. And that's pretty much where this ends. So I guess we're going to finally see what happened, because we found out that, yeah, between this and the Future State book, we found out that something happened in Jason's past that kind of comes up, and I'm assuming that has something to do with this case that got sealed up and whatever else is going on, because I don't know if it's something that came up in Batman or Batwing or anything, but I guess we're finally going to get, for those who don't know that information, if it's been out there, what that was. I don't think it's information that's actually been out there prior to now, though. But there we are, and like I said, going into, and this is the digital first book that has been coming out weekly. And that they're gonna eventually at some point put this into make this physical. So, and that is it for me. So we can go into clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
We do have one from one of our absent partners here. Dirt says that he's going to pick Thor number 14, even though he says, I can't fathom what bigger ramifications are going to be, to which I don't know what that means because I didn't read the book.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say, I actually understand where I understand where Dirt's questions lie, because of how this issue, you know, resolves itself, and how this the antagonist of the story you know, like how that's all wrapped up, how that story wraps up. You know, but there's lots of family stuff here. It's interesting that that the Donald Blake character was brought back, and brought back effectively. It's not unlike, you know, it's not too far from what Brubaker did with Bucky and the Winter Soldier. Obviously, it's not as cool, but it's definitely in that vein of taking a character that was kind of discarded because it was you know, like a relic, and turn that character into something effective. So that I definitely agree with him. So I'm going to go with Thor number 14 as my click of the week as well.
Oh, okay, cool. Then for myself, I'm thinking I am leaning towards like there was a couple of decent issues this week. I think I might actually go with Power Pack number 5 though.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was kind of cute the way it played out. I don't know if that was the intention, but, but that's what happened. And therein lies our clicks of the week. And we're going to go into the cinematic news. But first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10, SHOP10, for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Indeed, as I said, we are going into the cinematic news first off with The Witcher Blood Origin news. Jodie Turner-Smith leaves prequel series, apparently. So Jodie Turner-Smith of Queen and Slim fame has departed Netflix's 6-episode prequel series, The Witcher Blood Origin. Due to a change in the production schedule for the show, unfortunately, Jodie Turner-Smith will no longer be able to continue in the role of Ailey, says a Netflix spokesman to Variety. And the character has been described as a fierce warrior with the voice of a goddess. And then it goes on to in the description of what the character would be getting into with the show. So, yeah, that happens. All right, next.
Next up, the latest online campaign to apparently catapult out of HBO Zack Snyder's Justice League is the call for HBO Max to release a movie or series centered on Joe Manganiello's Slade Wilson / Deathstroke. Hashtag Deathstroke HBO Max was apparently trending on Twitter, with fans and even Manganiello himself sharing the hashtag in hopes that Warner Media would answer the call.
Yeah, that's the thing, and we are here, sadly, because also DC fans are calling on Warner Brothers to make the Ben Affleck Batman movie and a Black Canary HBO Max series also. So DC fans are doing what I just said, and also let's see, both make the Batfleck movies hashtag and hashtag Black Canary HBO series were trending on Twitter following the aforementioned Deathstroke HBO Max trend, and also restore the Snyderverse shenanigans therein.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, apparently fans are just getting all out of pocket and ask for everything on the sun. Now, don't get me wrong, I would actually like to see, because I saw this last night or within the last night or two about the Black Canary codes, because I'm not sure what prompted it, because I know I saw Gail Simone talking about it, and I know there was a lot of Black Canary talk that day for some odd reason, and maybe it was an anniversary or something that I don't know about, that I don't remember anything about or something. But regardless, I did see a lot of chatter about Black Canary and Journey Smollett's portrayal of Black Canary in the Harley Quinn, aka Birds of Prey movie. And yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that actually with her, get a little bit more of her in that. But who's to say if any of that's going to come to pass? And as far as that Affleck Batman movie, after watching Snyder Cut, I kind of wouldn't mind seeing that, but at the same time, that ship was probably sailed. Leave the Snyder Cut alone, or anything associated with it. Right. Which the Black Canary thing is not. It's just having to coincide with what people are asking for lately.
Right. I mean, on the other hand, as long as they keep Ben Affleck in decent shape, he could probably pull off like Dark Knight Returns, which is what they want to do anyway.
Sure.
That's what Snyder wants to do. That's what they're all dying to do Dark Knight Returns.
Right, or they end up doing some sort of multiverse, another crisis or something.
Yeah.
You know.
So
and-
as long as they keep him in decent shape, he doesn't necessarily have to get ripped, but he's got to stay like big, and they could do that. But all right. And some more unfortunate Zack Snyder Justice League news. HBO Max dropped Zack Snyder's Justice League trilogy trailer. So as that movie arrived, a new trailer highlights that the story Zack Snyder created over the course of 3 films is complete. HBO Max released the trilogy trailer on its official YouTube channel, which is comprised of footage from Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Whoop-de-doo.
Indeed. Shazam! Fury of the Gods cast Lucy Liu as Calypso. So Lucy Liu, best known for Chicago, Kill Bill, and in some corners of the world, Ally McBeal, and of course Charlie's Angels franchises, has joined Shazam! Fury of the Gods as the villain Calypso. Calypso is the sister of Helen Mirren's Hesperia, which we will be talking a little bit more about Helen Mirren in a few, and will serve as one of the sequel's primary antagonists. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was about to say, Lucy Liu went to my high school.
Did she? Oh, cool.
Yes, she did. She, a few years before me, but yeah.
I've always
she graduated before I got there, but that's pretty. It's pretty cool.
Right. I always like when she turns up and stuff because she's pretty good. So, next up though.
Next up, Marvel opens an MCU Madripoor website, but quickly had to scrub X-Men references. Somebody let the cat out of the bag. So they opened an in-universe tourism website for Madripoor, which fans quickly noticed contained a number of Easter eggs referencing X-Men characters. Those references have apparently now been removed. Comicbook.com spotted the new Explorer Madripoor website, which appeared as a banner advertisement on other Marvel websites. Fans subsequently discovered that areas of that site could be unlocked using passwords, including one area that listed ships in Madripoor's Buccaneer Bay docks, which we saw in episode 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When the site launched, those listings included ship names, some of which were direct references to X-Men characters, including Mystique, Daken, Shang-Chi, and the sentient island Krakoa were also mentioned. Interesting.
No Wolverine?
Whoops.
I know, right? Speaking of some Falcon and Winter Soldier news, there's about a behind-the-scenes look at episode 2's truck fight. So a new behind-the-scenes video for Falcon and Winter Soldier reveals the making of episode 2's highway fight scene. While Marvel's first Disney Plus series, WandaVision, went easy on the action until the end, anyway, the Falcon and Winter Soldier has been chock full of the MCU's typical heart-pounding moments, according to this article. Blase. Yeah, there's a behind-the-scenes video that was put up on, looks like on Instagram, showing some behind-the-scenes of said fight. Next up.
1 second. That's a link I want Roddykat to see.
Oops, and now the whole world is going to see it. Oh yeah, is this the oh shoot.
Right. So
yeah. That's right. I did see this.
Right. What I just sent Roddykat, and I'm gonna get to the next news item in a second. What I just sent Roddykat is a looped video of the Zemo dance from episode 3 of the Winter Soldier. And
I thought we talked about this.
What's that?
I thought we talked about this already last week or something, but yeah, go ahead.
No, but this is the official Disney one.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think because
okay. Apologies.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I know I've seen this. I don't know if I either had a link in the clickbait section of last week or if we did actually talk about this. But I have seen this. But go ahead and talk about it anyway.
No, all I wanted to mention was that Disney, one of the few things positive coming out of fan outcry for more things on the internet via Twitter is that Disney and Marvel Studios put together a looped video of 1 hour of Zemo dancing. It's the extended video too.
Mm-hmm.
because the video that's in the episode is very short of Zemo dancing, but this is apparently the footage from that. It's footage that includes what was cut from the episode of Zemo dancing in that art gallery clubbish night scene,
Right.
Club scene that is.
Right.
And it's pretty cool that they actually put together an hour loop of it.
Yeah, play a little bit of it. All right, that's enough.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the news. So you did the truck fight, right?
Yes.
So Marvel She-Hulk has added a new cast member, Angelica Schuyler. I mean Renée Elise Goldsberry. Renée Elise Goldsberry has joined the upcoming Disney Plus series, as reported by Deadline. She-Hulk will be a legal comedy with Tatiana Maslany playing the titular character, also known as Jennifer Walters, the cousin of Bruce Banner, the OG Hulk. We can expect an appearance from Mark Ruffalo in the new show, too. Tim Roth will also reprise his role as the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk movie, and Ginger Gonzaga is also on board, playing Jennifer's best friend. Goldsberry's character is called Amelia, but that's all we know so far. They couldn't call her Angelica. They just couldn't do it.
Wait, is Amelia the girl from that last She-Hulk series?
I don't know.
I don't know. I know those. I don't think it's I don't know if it's either way. So I said online that apparently getting Hamilton people for projects is the new getting Game of Thrones people at this point, because there's a lot of Hamilton people that are obviously they're getting work other places, but you see them in higher profile or as higher profile stuff like this, or as whatever, you see them in places that people, you see them in more places than other stuff. So
yep.
I'm happy for this because I love her. So
she's really good.
Yes. Speaking of She-Hulk series according to a report, begins filming. So this news comes via Georgia's government website, of all places, which provides a list of projects currently in production within the state. This comes several weeks after Marvel Studios Kevin Feige announced that filming would begin soon, followed by production on Moon Knight. And this is looks like a tweet from a She-Hulk fan site, with the pertinent information on that, I guess. So there you go. And of course, they mentioned Renée Elise Goldsberry's hiring. Next.
Alrighty, Sony Pictures has signed a new deal with Netflix that will see the streamer become the exclusive home of films like Uncharted and Morbius when they finish their theatrical and home video runs beginning in 2022, as reported by Deadline. The new deal sees Netflix replace Starz as Sony's partner for the, quote, pay one window for what Deadline says is a record setting price tag. Netflix is an obvious choice for Sony, given that the company already has a pay-one deal for its animated releases. But the new deal is far more comprehensive and will see Sony's theatrical films from its Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures Classics, Screen Gems, and TriStar Pictures studios all head to Netflix.
That's a big get. Two, boy, how do they feel about that? That has to suck for both. Well, Starz in a little ways, but also Crackle, which is Sony's own streaming service. By the way,
that's true.
So yeah,
that's true.
But it's a good get for Netflix and those and pretty much everybody, because let's face it, Netflix is pretty much the one other streaming service that everybody has access to. As opposed to, that and another one. So, yeah, cool. Next up, though, back to some Godzilla vs. Kong, which tops $350 million at the global box office. It made some money, folks. Not surprising. I'm not going to go through all the numbers here, but it made a lot of money in different places.
Right.
Even...
if it made this much money, it definitely would have hit very close to $1 billion if times were normal.
And I think there's probably some mention of that in this article, which I think it did not also have, because I know they've been doing movie. They've been doing theater and HBO Max for Warner Brothers stuff.
Right.
So, and I think this is also part of that, and which also reminds me of an article I may talk about, or that I've heard about. I don't know about it, but regardless, we might talk about that in another story later on. But yeah, good on it, I guess. Mortal Kombat is coming out next week, by the way. So, yeah, look forward to at least one of us talking about that one. Well, excuse me, the week after that, I should say. I mean, because it's coming out next week, so look out for one of us talking about it after
Was it
that.
coming out next Friday?
I believe so. Yes, the 23rd.
Oh. I mean, I might give it a shot. I'm not a big fan of the whole Mortal Kombat franchise in general. I mean, I played the games a little bit, so
right. Yeah, and I plan on probably watching the first two over again over the course of this week. Just not saying they have anything to do with each other because it's a reboot, but just for giggles.
I was about to say the reboot helps me because I don't have to be as familiar with the characters.
Right. But next
up, Netflix has released the official trailer for Godzilla Singular Point, which features a new look at the King of the Monsters. Godzilla is shown trailing through Japan, leaving a fiery wave of destruction in his wake. Meanwhile, engineer Yun Arikawa and grad student Mei Camino learn about the existence of a mysterious particle named Archetype, which is described as a magic lamp that enables the impossible. Multiple kaiju, including Rodan and Anguirus, are somehow able to see the future, which leads them on a rampage. This sends Yun and Mei alongside their comrades on a race against the clock to stop a world-ending catastrophe. The trailer ends by confirming Godzilla Singular Point will premiere this June in the United States on Netflix. Okay.
And if it wasn't made clear, it's anime, so
yes,
some of that makes a little bit more sense given that. And I don't know if you watched this or not, but it looks like they focus more on of course, more of the humans and a lot of talk there than Godzilla. So don't know. Next up, though, Netflix is making a live-action Gundam movie with Jordan Voight Roberts directing. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you, that's the dude that did Kong Skull Island. That directed Kong Skull Island.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to feel about that, honestly, because live-action anime stuff has not been great. And given how silly Kong Skull Island was, I don't know if I would trust him with this. I'll be honest. But Legendary Entertainment and, as I said, Kong Skull Island director Jordan Voight Robertson teaming up to work on a live-action Gundam movie that will stream exclusively on Netflix. Details about the project operating under the working title Gundam are limited at this time. Apparently, Brian K. Vaughan is writing the screenplay and will also act as an executive producer. You know Brian K. Vaughan from Why the Last Man, Runaways. Wait, is that Saga? Is he also Saga?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, take that for what it will. The movie was streaming on Netflix globally, except in China, where Legendary will distribute the film. There's no set release date for the film yet, and the project will be overseen by Cale Boiter on behalf of Legendary and the original Gundam studio Sunrise. Jason Young, director of the original film at Netflix, will oversee the project. So. And there's no plot. So there you go. Next
up, live action Powerpuff Girl photos were revealed. They're unofficial of Blossom, Buttercup, and Bubbles came out.
No, these are official.
Production on what's that?
These are official.
Oh, these are official?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I saw the unofficial ones.
Right. Thought that was the one last week, which I think that's what prompted them to put these ones out. I wonder. I'm thinking.
They're like, finally, right?
Mm.
So, well, they were like, well, we might as well.
Right.
They have a brand new look as production on the pilot, as we've reported, got underway. The CW released an official first look photo of Powerpuff's Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. The photo puts series stars Chloe Bennett, Dev Cameron, and Yana Perot in their characters' signature colors. However, these costumes are a far cry from the dresses the girls wore during their time as superheroes. In the pilot, which picks up when the girls are adults, they will wear more casual clothing.
Right. It kind of feels like how the Power Rangers used to be like everybody dressed in their light colors situation. But I think I still think like like I said, like after that last week when they showed those set photos, like, oh no, we got to get something more official out here because we can't have people, joking about the, those behind the scene photos as they were. So yeah. Next up, though, Joe Cornish set to direct Starlight movie adapting Mark Millar's comic book. So British comedian and filmmaker Joe Cornish is set to do what I just said. Starlight follows a space hero named Duke McQueen, who saved the universe, but upon his return to Earth, no one believed him. Decades later, after he's settled down and built a life, he's called back for one final escapade. That old chestnut. Reported by Deadline, you might know Joe Cornish from Attack the Block, which if you haven't seen, you should, because that's where we got John Boyega from. Also, who is set to write and direct the upcoming film adaptation of Mark Millar's comic Starlight. There you go. Next.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds is apparently going to be more like the original series, says writer Akiva Goldsmith. There's lots of Star Trek content coming our way. With the new series Strange New Worlds, writer and producer Akiva Goldsmith shared some more details about the upcoming series. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Goldsmith opened up about one aspect from the original Star Trek series that he's bringing into the new series. It's unlike the other shows in that it's really episodic, he says. If you think back to the original series, it was a tonally more liberal, not in politics, but it could sort of be more fluid. He then went on to explain that what he meant by the show being tonally liberal, saying sometimes Robert Bloch would write a horror episode, or Harlan Ellison would have City on the Edge of Forever, which is hard sci-fi. Then there would be comedic episodes like Shore Leave or The Trouble with Tribbles. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah, TO is kind of all over the place. So I guess that makes sense. So we'll see how that works out. Matter of fact, you know what? You do the honors on this next one. And last one, cinematic, the last cinematic one.
F9, Fast 9, the imaginatively named ninth film in the increasingly physics-defying Fast and Furious franchise, has a new 3-minute plus trailer arriving almost a full year after its original May 2020 release date. There are potential spoilers for things that have already been widely revealed in the trailer. This movie's coming out June 25th. This trailer definitely got me hyped. It definitely made me happy that we see some characters return, especially from the Tokyo Drift franchise. There is one Tokyo Drift movie that is.
Sure.
I would say that there's one movie that still has that could still have a few more characters come in, and that would be Too Fast, Too Furious. There's a couple of side characters that played decent-sized roles in the movie that could use some that could use a reappearance, I think. But I definitely enjoyed this. It got me hyped. There's so much craziness in here. It's so fun to hear whatchamacallit, oh God, I can't remember his the actor's real name.
Tyrese?
Yes, Tyrese Gibbs. I was about to say thank you. I was going to call him by his by the character's name. Tyrese. It's always fun to hear Tyrese Gibson yell.
I don't. I hate it.
Yelling.
I hate his character. I hate his character. I wish they would have killed him off.
He's yelling.
I hate him. I wish they killed him off. And nothing made that point more than watching this trailer. It was like, oh God, he's still.
It's crazy.
Folk hungry. Yeah.
Roman, tell us it's crazy.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I don't like that. I've never liked this character in this movie. In these movies, I
So
just
funny. And and of course they got to pair him with Tej, right?
right.
Because Brian's not around, so they pair him with Tej.
Well, yeah. To be
And
fair, they have been doing that the last couple of movies, though, or the last couple of movies they were together, anyway. So.
exactly. And we may have to forego a little bit of justice for Han in this particular movie that may have to wait for another movie. We'll see.
Yeah. So yeah. So apparently there's thought that this movie could be the start of another trilogy. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. They're trying to make 12. But also, yeah, if you haven't seen this is kind of crazy. I watched this with a friend of mine. I had watched it already, but I watched this with a friend of mine who had not been keeping up with the stuff around this one. So they didn't know the fact that Han was back. And it was like, oh, it's like, oh, so it was because I asked them, it was like, yeah, because they had watched all the movies, up until then, up until 8. So, it's like, oh, Han's back, and then there was a couple of get the fuck out of here moments,
Yeah.
in the course
Yeah.
of this trailer.
Yeah.
Because I think we had talked prior to watching this about the them about the whole hubbub about them going to space.
Right.
And apparently they might be, according to this trailer, they might be getting close to doing that. Spoiler alert.
Well, at least low Earth orbit.
Right. In the dumbest way possible.
And what's funny is that, what I didn't like about the trailer was that it was so long and that it spoiled one of the big concepts in the movie, but it wasn't really spoiled when I thought about it because they had already employed some of that technology in the first trailer.
Right.
But to see how widespread it is, I think is the spoiler.
Right. Yeah, and I guess the same friend didn't also see the like I said the stuff leading up to this with the like I said with Han and Cena and all that kind of mess, and was like went from yay to like really.
I still got hyped.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be crazy. Like I wasn't expecting any different, and also because we had you and I had been keeping track of this stuff. So and I know we both said like at some point we probably didn't necessarily need to see any more trailers, but still, it was cool to see.
Funny.
But yeah, I'm like this is gonna be real dumb. And there was also a mention of Charlize Theron's Mo Howard haircut, but I think that I might have been the one to say that and not her. But regardless, so yeah, so that's the thing we got coming up the pike, folks. Strap in because it is coming June 25th. And also, that actually brings you up to another story real quick that somebody had mentioned to me. I think it might have been the same friend talking about that they were basically trying to hinge theaters being back in business with this film. I'm saying like that's a lot to hinge on this film,
right?
Like this being the thing that saves theaters because we've seen recently a lot of theaters kind of closing down, or a couple of marquee cinemas in places going down or closing. So like no, this is not the movie to hinge that on. Like sure, it's probably gonna do some money, do some things, but I don't know about that by hinging the state of theaters in this. Anyway, let us move on
right.
to
what I was gonna say is just to put a quick capper on that one. My idea of a movie, I hate to say this, it's unfortunate that they've kept moving Black Widow around,
right?
But I think they've also moved Black Widow around so that they can hope to get it into the box office. We get it into the theaters,
right?
And what's the new date on Black Widow now? July?
Is it? I believe so.
Right. I think that's more practical. But a late June release is just as good as July. It all depends on unfortunately there's been a hiccup in the vaccine rollout with the recent news this week. But my second one's next week. So the hope is that theaters will be opening up by July.
Right.
And hopefully Fast and the Furious will still be out in the theaters. I may not see it open weekend, but hopefully sometime in July.
July 9th, by the way, is Black Widow.
Right. So hopefully sometime in July it'll be a nice it'd be funny if I could sneak in a double feature.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot of sitting on our butts, but guess what we're doing right now, folks? Sitting on our butts a lot. So
that's still, yeah, and that's still a step too far for me at this point. Because I'm like, no, I'm still going to continue to sit in my house and do my thing. I'm just fine. I also do hate though the fact that Black Widow is going to be under Disney Plus premiere thing though, which we've already talked about that. So
the added cost, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which one did you take? I think you told me though. Which vaccine did you take? If you don't mind me asking.
Pfizer. I am Team Pfizer.
Gotcha. So yeah, and given what's been said about Johnson & Johnson, which I know people have had aversions to that one anyway, yeah, maybe stay away from that one. So now we're going to transition over into the comic book news.
Transition.
Well, the whole of justice.
Miles Morales is taking on the Falcon's most noble fight, and this is spoilers for Spider-Man 20. Miles Morales Spider-Man 1 number 24, which came out last week, a couple weeks ago. I can't remember. But basically, this is saying that Miles Morales, Spider-Man has a chance to work as a hero again. And the first thing he did was to help some people in a collapsed building alongside his close friend. We already talked about this. But however, what happened next might define Miles Morales as the speculation in this piece in the future, and could make his goals very close to those of the Falcon. So basically, yeah, it's because they went after this one slumlord person, and they thinking that he might be going into some advocacy, almost in like a social work fashion, like the Falcon did or something. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Next up, though.
Next up, I guess we've gotten some previews of the Heroes Reborn stuff that is going to be coming out during this event this summer. Marvel Comics unveiled the cover and synopsis for Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 2 from writer Carlo Pacheco and artist Eleonora Carlini, which ties into Infinite Destinies, the series of annuals, all of which focus on established Marvel heroes interacting with newer characters whose powers are tied to the Infinity Stones. I apologize, not Heroes Reborn, but this Infinite Destinies annual run.
Right.
Shout out to Atlantis Attacks. Right, so in Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 2, Spider-Man will run afoul of Star, the cranky, irascible, I love the use of the word here, the irascible villain / anti-hero of Captain Marvel and Thunderbolt's fame, who possesses powers derived from the Infinity Stone. Okay.
Indeed. Shush.
Nah.
Trying to set up something for down the line, which folks are actually seeing if they're watching the video. And you should watch the video sometimes, because you can see some of this stuff we're talking about. And now we get to actually a complete guide to Heroes Reborn. So welcome to a world welcome to a world where Tony Stark never built an Iron Man armor, where Thor is a hard-drinking atheist who despises hammers, where Wakanda, which I feel like they've done at some point. They might have hinted that in the comic books elsewhere in the past couple of years. But anyway, oh yeah, the young Thor stuff. I think they did do that in there. Anyway, where Wakanda is dismissed as a myth, and where Captain America was never found in the ice because there were no Avengers to find him. Instead, this world has always been protected by Earth's mightiest heroes, the Squadron Supreme of America, and now the squadron faces an attack from some of their fiercest enemies, like Dr. Juggernaut, the Black Skull, the Silver Witch, and Thanos, because they didn't bother to give Thanos a funky name, apparently, with his Infinity Rings. But why is the Daywalker Blade the one man alive who seems to remember that the entire world has been somehow reborn? Because this is House of Blade.
Oh no!
The story begins at your local comic shop on May 5th with Heroes Born number 1, and then it kind of goes on to talking a little bit more about subsequent issues. So yeah, I don't know if I'm looking for. Heroes Born has a bad connotation in the mouths of people of a certain vintage. Maybe this is going to be a little bit better. I guess we'll see.
It'll be different, and that's what's best.
Yeah, sure.
It's just the name you know, which brings back unfortunately bad memories.
Mhm.
But it'll be different from the original Heroes Reborn concept,
hope.
which is good.
We hope.
You know, it's not it's not altogether foreign, because that's the whole concept behind the squadron, the original concept of the Squadron Supreme anyway, which
Mhm.
is that it's a take on the DC concept, but you know, with with sometimes a villainous a villainous twist.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, next month, folks. I think it's just you.
Next up, Marvel revealed which X-Men have already lost the new team fan vote so far. At the beginning of the year, fans had the chance to vote on the final member of the new X-Men team. Now Marvel has revealed which mutants have not made the cut so far. Marvel shared the poll results as a series of comic strips on Twitter, written by Hellions writer Zeb Wells with a rotating group of artists. The comic features The comics feature Strong Guy and Forge, Boom Boom and Tempo, and Armor and Marrow. Mike Henderson illustrated Equality starring Strong Guy and Forge. Nico Leon draws Boom Boom and Tempo and Overserved. And rounding out the artistic talent is Emilio Laizo on Armor and Marrow's The Best Offense story. Rochelle Rosenberg provided color art for all three comics. So I guess the creator favorite Tempo didn't make it into the finals.
Guess not.
I know comic creators were definitely voting for her.
Right. Interesting. So yeah, there you go, folks. They didn't make the cut. Boom Boom, I can kind of understand, but also that would probably have been an interesting an interesting pick for an X-Men proper team, because she's still her.
Right.
For good or for ill, she's still her. So next up, though, Peter David's legendary 90s run on X Factor is reborn in X-Men Legends #5. So writer Peter David will be the next classic X creator, returning to add new depth to his legendary X Factor run in an arc on X-Men Legends starting with July's #5, which I'm going to assume this is the Fab Five, because he started X Factor, right? I should know this because I was reading the book. Anyway, Peter David was the one that started X Factor in the first place.
No, I don't think he started the original X Factor, but
I vaguely remember, or maybe he was a later team that with Havoc.
Because I was about to say, I think Weezy Simonson started X Factor.
That probably right. Sorry, fact checking here for one quick moment.
Yeah, right. I think Weezy Simonson started it, and then it went to whatchamacallit? It went to Peter David when he did the
This is Bob Layton.
The later run.
It says Bob Layton and Jackson Geis.
Jackson Geis. Yeah. I think it's Geis.
Yeah. And then Peter David was the Havoc in them, the 90s.
Exactly.
Okay. So bummer for me then, because we don't.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say Bob Layton and Jackson Geis wrote and illustrated the first few issues of X Factor. Then they turned it over to Weezy Simonson and Walt Simonson.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes, because yeah. So okay. So bummer for me, because I would have preferred. I would prefer to being the OG X-Men or the original X Factor / OG X-Men than Havoc team. No shade to them, because sure, but that's that. But regardless, following that, the title will apparently stay in X Factor country, bring in long-time X Factor writer Peter David, who penned the team's adventures in the multiple volumes in the 90s. Actually, I guess if we had read a little bit longer, we would have seen that. But and Todd Knock is doing the art. So there you go. Next up,
Marvel's Avengers is this is a video game. Latest downloadable content. Quote, Future Imperfect adds new content to the game, and Crystal Dynamics has outlined a roadmap for updates launching in the coming months. These include Black Panther and Wakanda joining the game. Details on these are unknown, but other items are now in the game have sparked conversation. These include new skins for the existing lineup of heroes. These outfits are based on the characters' various appearances from the comics and Marvel Cinematic Universe. And one notable one is a nod to Tony Stark's time as a villain with his Endosim armor from the Superior Iron Man. That's the white armor. However, this isn't the only skin that shows some of the Earth's mightiest heroes at their lowest points. Okay.
Yeah, so apparently the unworthy Thor costume shows up also, and I think Cap also has another one as a costume from at some point. So yeah, there you go. Oh wait, is he wait, is it, are they doing Hydra Cap? I think they might be doing Hydra Cap. Weird. They mentioned this. Anyway, regardless, there's some more suits coming to the game. Next up, though, Marvel's Villainous gets first expansion, Mischief and Malice, this summer. Ravensburger has announced the first standalone expansion for Marvel Villainous, which is a board game. Mischief and Malice. This expansion will feature 3 more classic Marvel villains to add to your games, like Loki, Madame Mask, and MODOK. Of course, each one of these has their own unique goal and unique playstyle, such as Loki's need to spend a unique currency called Mischief. Mask is out for Hero Blood, and MODOK is after the Cosmic Cube. And that's expansion is going to come out August 1st for $24.99. And I think there's also some card art from the game in this article if you're so inclined to check that out. Next.
Something that is not going to be $24.99.
Oh no. Far from.
Hasbro at Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest last week announced something pretty cool.
Yes.
They unveiled the first ever auto-transforming Transformers toy. Hasbro announced at Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest on April 9th that they had teamed up with Robosyn Robotics to create a fully functional Optimus Prime collector's item introduced as the Transformers Optimus Prime auto-converting programmable advanced robot. The robot is now available for pre-order at Hasbro Pulse for $699.
So
Polygon noted in an article that they had been making suspiciously that Robosyn Robotics had been making suspiciously Transformer-looking motorized robots for years.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have the video that you're showing? Is it transforming?
So I did show a video. Yes, I did show the video from CNET, which is going to be in the show notes, by the way, of the thing transforming. And I'm showing the pictures that are in the article now. But
Gotcha.
There was also, I know when I first saw this, you may or may not have seen it, but it was Kevin Smith responding to seeing this, because I don't know if he had somebody from the robotics thing on the show or on a show or something, but I saw there was an image of him responding to seeing it transform for itself that I didn't actually watch. So, but yeah, like I said, you can see it in the I would want this, but that's $700.
I mean, I've seen it. It's cool. I'm gonna look for that Kevin Smith reaction though. But that's pretty intense. And it's big. It is not a small toy.
No, it is not. It is not. Actually, and yeah, you can see, like I said, yeah, I'm just showing the still of the picture of the video that I showed in relation to the young lady that is showing it off. So it's kind of big. It's kind of big. Unless you stick out the plastic on it on the hands also, which while it was transforming, that's kind of funny.
Right. Apparently, and you can remote control it via an app as well.
Yes.
So that's pretty crazy.
Oh, she's got a little gizmo tucked behind her. Anyway, let me just stop looking at it. So yeah. So yeah, that's that thing. It's cool as hell, but that's a lot of money. But speaking of Hasbro's Fans Fest, or at least
I was about to say there's an animated GIF on The Verge.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's what I'm looking at now. I'm like, wow.
Mm-hmm. So
that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, if you watch the video in a while, Agent 70 was talking about it. You saw the video that is in the show notes from CNET that showed the transformation. So it's pretty damn cool. But Hasbro announces Galvatron, Predacon Scorponok, and the Autobot Arc, which I saw that before I saw this article. Upcoming Transformers War for Cybertron figures. So the third and final season of Netflix Transformers War for Cybertron trilogy premieres in July. Which, okay, I did not know that. That's good to know. And sees Predacons and Maximals join in the fight. Which, yeah, I do remember that part that they were leading up to. But leading up to the new season and in front of Hasbro's FanFest. Okay, this is before FanFest. On April 9th, Hasbro revealed 3 new Transformers War for Cybertron figures available for pre-order this week. Or that week, I should say, because this article came out on the 7th. So I am scrolling through pictures of Galvatron. Yes, it is Galvatron from the movie. And he's decked out with the bling of the Matrix with the chain around it. In pictures. And here he is transformed. There's the Arc. This joint is big and it's $159. Now, mind you, the Arc never transformed during the course of G1, so this is a brand new joint. I kind of want this also, but it's $159 and probably won't happen. And they even have a picture in here of the Arc in a faux lava setup, which I'm pretty sure someone's going to do as a display. And then there's some other, there's some more pictures of the Arc, and then there's Scorponok from Beast Wars. As I'm clicking through, and then it just starts over again. So there you go, folks. Again, if you're watching the video, you saw all of that. So some cool stuff. I might actually kind of want that Galvatron, but maybe not. So all 3 figures will be available starting July 1st, but can be pre-ordered. As of right now, Galvatron's is $50, Scorponok is $22.99, and the aforementioned Arc is $150. Although, wait, $140, yeah, so it's $150, and I think I saw it on Entertainment Earth for $10 more. So, yeah, watch out for that stuff. Next up.
I was about to say, do we have in the news that Marvel already announced who won the vote?
No. Do you have that?
It came out yesterday.
Okay. Do you have that?
Actually, yeah. No. It did come. It came out the day of the show, but it came out in the morning.
Gotcha.
Came out in a tweet. Do you want to know who it is? You want me to reveal who it is online right now? It's Polaris.
Okay, sure. Why not? Why not? She's been a part of a team before. Why not? Cool. But
Next up, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is getting a Street Fighter crossover with Ryu and Chun-Li transformed into the Crimson Hawk Ranger and Blue Phoenix Ranger, respectively. Announced with IGN, a Street Fighter DLC pack is going to come to Power Rangers Battle for the Grid video game on PC, PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Stadia, on May 25th, priced at $12.50 US dollars.
Yeah, and it is Stadia. So this has a precedent to it because they are, as this article noted, they were first featured in the other Power Rangers game, mobile game, the Legacy Wars. But there's also, there's also a live action video where the Green Ranger, Jason David Frank, whatever his name is, Tommy basically, teams up. Well, first fights and then teams up with Chun-Li and Ryu for a live action joint. And that, if you've not seen it before now, is in the show notes. That you can check that out. It's actually not bad done. Sadly enough, Chun-Li did not get her Power Ranger transformation in that, but Ryu did for some strange reason. Anyhow, next up though, Jurassic Park meets Reebok, Instapump, Fury, and Steven Smith collaboration. So yeah, Reebok and Universal Pictures are launching sneakers inspired by Jurassic Park. Designed by Steven Smith, which I'm keep thinking Stephen A. Smith, or don't think it's him.
I hope not.
The new collection has 3 unique sneakers featuring a dinosaur-like stripe design and a colorway inspired by the green, red, and yellow Ford Explorers that appeared in 1993 Jurassic Park. These are kind of ugly. According to Heights of Heat, the Reebok silhouettes featured in the new collection are the CL collection, Club C, and Instapump Fury. I don't know what any of that means. Except for the Instapump. I know they got the Instapump, the pump-up shoes, but the rest of those are, I assume they're whatever. So yeah, you can see the pictures here of, I think that's the Reebok Pump one. Yeah, they're kind of ugly. Somebody might rock them, but more power to you. Next.
Okay, so in news that was kind of hyped, maybe?
Maybe a little.
So how Disney's real, quote unquote, real lightsaber patent actually works. So real lightsaber, how's that possible? It's probably not, of course, but when Disney Parks chairman Josh D'Amaro ended his April 8th presentation by whipping out a never-before-seen retractable lightsaber, no video evidence, mind you, Disney and Star Wars fans went wild online. Speculation ran rampant, much of it pointing to a 2018 patent for a sword device with a retractable, internally illuminated blade. Apparently, the people at Verge poured through the patent late in the evening, and they tried to figure out a way to show how it worked. But then they went to, but then VR developer Ben Ridout did better, illuminating Disney's patented concept with a set of simple animations. Essentially, they are motorized tape measures.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they've done things kind of similar to this before. I feel like I've seen things that are kind of similar, probably without the retractable thing that you would want.
Mm-hmm.
The retraction that you would want. Because I know there was those ones that if you flick them out, they'll go out. They'll fold out. But I'm pretty sure this sounds like this is not that. So sure. All right, cool. Next up, it's official. I mean, don't get me wrong. I put that in there because I'm as a Star Wars fan and somebody who would probably want a Star Wars lightsaber that way. I don't know why I even said Star Wars, but a lightsaber that would do something like that. It is what it is until I see something actual real. So anyway, Disneyland's Avengers Campus will open June 4th. So obviously due to COVID delays and whatever, and not whatever, but basically due to COVID delays, parks are starting to open back up for better or for ill. On Thursday, I guess the 7th or whatever it was, the Disney Parks and Marvel Studios announced Avengers Campus will open to the public Friday, June 4th. The superhero-themed California Adventure Park, which that's a thing you should definitely note, expansion was originally scheduled to open in summer 2020, back when Black Widow was first due in theaters. But now it will debut under heavy pandemic-related restrictions, including operating at limited capacity as the state eases out of social distancing measures. Yeah, this comes from the Disney Park Twitter handle, this tweet that's on this thing. So yeah, there you go. It's a thing that's coming. Will I go there anytime soon? Probably not. I would like to, yes. But nevertheless, next up,
Skybound X to celebrate publisher's 10-year anniversary with new Rick Grimes and Clementine or Tyne stories. Mm-hmm. Beginning in July, Image Comics and Skybound Entertainment are going to launch a 5-issue limited comic book series titled Skybound X. In the series, fans will get to meet Clementine, the heroine from Telltale's The Walking Dead video game series, for the first time on the comics page. The story is going to elaborate on the non-canonical alternate ending presented by writer Robert Kirkman and artist Ryan Ottley in The Walking Dead number 75, which will be a 5-part tale titled Rick Grimes 2000. The 5-issue series will run weekly and feature a murderer's row of Skybound talent, including Kirkman and Ottley, also Tilly Walden, Donny Cates, Joshua Williamson, Chip Zdarsky, James Herron, and Daniel Warren Johnson. Cool.
Yeah. Next up, Jupiter's Legacy trailer sends the comic book issues soaring in price. No surprise, I guess. The secondary comic book market continues to see spikes in back issues of the comic books with ties to television and or film. As the release of the trailer for the upcoming Jupiter's Legacy television series on Netflix has caused the price of the first issue of Jupiter's Legacy comic book to spike in price. The original 2013 Image Comics miniseries by Mark Millar and Frank Quitely was popular when it was released, was it? Anyway, but it was never a particularly big back issue darling. That's just natural, of course, as this article says. The biggest driver in secondary comic book market has been connections to TV and other films. Which, honestly, when this first comic book to TV boom happened, it wasn't so much of, and only as of the last few years has been a thing, more of a thing than not. But because it didn't necessarily start out that way. But yeah, I guess it's good to see. But yeah, that's the thing, folks. Next up.
Okay, and some hyperbole here.
Yes.
Spoiler clickbait alert. Wonder Woman just made Aquaman's deadliest move even scarier. So, Aquaman talks with the fishes. He's a superhero. He might be most famous for telepathically communicating with sea creatures. It's the Shark Attack, where he commands giant creatures like sharks and megalodons in battle that truly strike fear into opponents. In sensational Wonder Woman number 12, Diana of Themyscira copies Aquaman's deadliest move, and she uses it to torture her enemies into submission in a way that Aquaman never has. Okay.
Yeah, so you can see the image of I'm assuming this is Giganta being chomped on by a yeah, it is Giganta being chomped on by some fishies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all right. Next. DC's Rorschach comic just gave the Watchmen universe its weirdest cameo. That might be a little bit more hyperbole, but apparently Frank Miller has a cameo in Rorschach's book, which I believe is from this week, actually. Rorschach number 7, yeah, it came out this week. So spoiler alerts if you even care. But yeah. Frank Miller. Next.
Alrighty, last year's Hugo Awards ceremony certainly had its issues apparently, but getting nominated for a Hugo Award is still a big deal, especially when there's an impressive and diverse set of finalists. Book-wise, N.K. Jemisin could get her 4th Best Novel Award if she defeats the 3rd novel by Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell's Susanna Clarke. The Ghost Spider, formerly known as Spider-Gwen, is up for Best Comic, while Birds of Prey, Netflix's The Old Guard, and the time travel comedy Palm Springs are Best Film nominees. Okay.
Yeah. Also 2 episodes of Mandalorian are in the running at some point. So is She-Ra, Princess of Power, and The Good Place. And apparently, for some strange reason, I don't know what the Hugos also entails, but Final Fantasy Remake, Hades, and Animal Crossing New Horizons are also running for Best Video Game. So I guess either they branched out or I don't know. So yeah, good for all of those. And we don't have winners just yet that I know of. These are just the finalists. I don't know if the winners have been chosen yet. So now we move on to the end of the show, but really, really, very, very quick before the ad reads, I want to show this thing that I just got.
You got a toy corner?
Huh?
You got a toy corner?
I do have a very quick toy corner to which.
Okay. I was about to say, while you're getting it, I can tell people that during the Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest, they announced some new Marvel Legends, and I was able to pre-order I'm not getting the whole bad guys wave. It's not together. It's not all that interesting, but I definitely pre-ordered the parts of the Iron Man wave that's coming out. I got the Ultron, I got the Riri Ironheart, and I got the modular armor, which is straight out of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I am probably going to order those same ones. Although I am starting to lean towards the whole set for some dumb reason.
Really?
Even though I don't like
the stealth is cool, right? The stealth is cool,
right?
It's kind of cool to build the build a figure is Ursa Major, the bear, the giant bear, Soviet super soldier who I think, did I tell you this, that he looks like Goku without a tail?
I think you did mention that, yes.
Yeah. You know, that's a spoiler alert for Dragon Ball for you folks that had never watched that.
Yep.
Because that would have been for me. But yeah, no, it's a big teddy, it's a big grizzly bear. You know, it's kind of cool. Like that means they're gonna put out the Soviet super soldiers eventually. You know, we did get, Roddykat mentioned that we did get a Crimson Dynamo, but it's not the Dynamo that most old school comic readers are used to.
And I believe there was a Titanium Man also, but because that in that Kazakhstan conversation we talked about that too. But you know, well, you mentioned that. I don't think I've
right. But armors being armors, that gives them plenty of opportunities to put out different versions. So, you know, we'll see how, you know, because that's just fodder for future Iron Man waves. But they did finally put out the stealth armor. That was tempting for me. Right. The stealth armor, the original stealth armor, was tempting for me. And
that's the one that's probably pushing me over actually to get in the whole wave. Yeah.
The Dark Star is pretty cool. Yeah. It's so simple though, but you know.
Yeah, the only one I don't like is that hologram suit. I'm like, that one I wasn't.
Yeah, that was a waste.
Yeah.
That one's kind of a waste. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So, real quick toy corner here. I got my Ahsoka.
Nice.
I actually had it for a while now. It's just been sitting out in a box in the hall. I was like, let me go ahead and open this up.
Is that the one? Is that the adult one, or is that the one from the animated show?
I believe this is the adult one.
Okay, because the one from the animated show that I would have.
Oh wait, no, this is from Rebels.
Oh, is that the one from Rebels? That's the one I would like to get.
Right. So,
because you got to look at the face sculpt,
right?
Like where it looks more animated. That's a cool one. I definitely would want to get my hands on that.
Yeah. So
would you get that from Target?
I think Big Bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I said, yeah, this is the one I was telling you that was sitting in a pile of loot that I never, that they were holding, and I forgot to go check it.
I didn't realize it was available on Big Bad. Maybe I'll see if it's there still.
Yeah,
I doubt it though.
You might be surprised. So yeah, so that is that, folks.
That's cool.
So now we can go to the last ad read of the night.
Our last ad read of the night, because we have been going for a little while, is, of course, for Amazon. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we come to the end of another exciting episode of Comic Book Chronicles, thank you each and every one of you folks for coming out, whether it be live for the recording or later on the video, watching the video or audio versions. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter, News Nerds Need on Twitter, and CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. Our absentee hosts, PC_Dirt, which you can find on Twitter at PC_Dirt. You can find them at wow, how did I even Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in, and possibly still at Byte on as comic reviews no vowels. One of these days I'll actually ask him if he's actually still doing that mess. But also Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris that is ish. You can also find him at CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You know, definitely go hit him up, say, you know, hey, how you doing? You know, send us questions, comments at that account. If you feel so secure, we'll see it at some point. Or at least he will, and he'll pass along, or we'll see it when we look over there. We don't know. But also you can find Tim at The Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION, theclicknation.com, but also at Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. And that's CBR.com.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Because I keep forgetting to put that part in. But you know, I figure at this point, if you're following comic books, you probably know about CBR already, and where to find it. So, you can also find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast original place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast SoundCloud page. And that is the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. But you got me. You got me. And again, you can find us here every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on streaming live on The Click Nation's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/TheClickNation, or you can find us on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. And thank you for the folks that came through tonight.
Yes, and thank you for that. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, follow, and click on for notifications so you know when we are on.
There it is, baby Paul. And with that, folks, we will again Falcon and Winter Soldier in a few short hours. Another episode of Invincible is also coming out, which now that I think about it, I have not watched the last couple, so maybe I'll catch up on that. But yeah, until next week, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One, rest in peace, DMX.
Indeed.